Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Was Son of Harley Quinn and Became League of Assassins Member Part 1. Before we start, please go support marioiale for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Naruto is a male. Chapter 1. Steel Forged from Hate. Gotham City was many things, none of which were good. Crime and poverty were high, while employment rates were incredibly low. Truth be told, Gotham was a dying city, infected by a disease that was slowly rotting the city and its people. However, there were some noble spirits within Gotham who tried to repair the broken city. The Waynes were a prime example, though more than 2 decades have passed since their murder, and the city clearly hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten worse, but other people have become the new face of Gotham's guardians. To start, there was the new vigilante hero, Batman. He had taken to the streets of Gotham under the cover of night to cleanse his city of all the filth that covered Gotham's allies and warehouses. For many, Batman was a symbol of hope, a symbol that Gotham could still be saved. Yet he was a man who fought for Gotham in the darkness. A city as broken as Gotham needed a hero to step into the light and fight for his city. Luckily for the people of Gotham, they had the right man. Minato Namikaze, a wealthy businessman from Japan, moved his company to Gotham over 8 years ago. Many speculated about why a wealthy, single man would relocate his multi-billion-dollar corporation to a foreign, dying city. Minato always responded to such questions with a small smile and a new take on how a city is nothing but concrete, so how could it possibly die? He would remind the media that a city is nothing without its people, so his and his companions' goal was to create jobs and improve the lives of the people of Gotham. Minato quickly became not only the public face and hero of Gotham, but also attracted attention from other sources, both good and bad. This attention came from all the work his company did, which consisted of producing cutting-edge, modern technology, which it sold to the people of Gotham at very reasonable prices. This meant that even the poorest family could afford its products, all geared toward improving the daily lives of Gotham's citizens. The downside to this was that Minato found himself the enemy of many crime bosses in Gotham. Although Minato didn't fear their threats, he was a single man with no family to care for. However, the key word is that Minato was a single man with no family. See, this is where most of Minato's exploits come into play. After his first 2 years in Gotham, Minato met a rather interesting woman. Dr. Harley Quinn, a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum. The two had met at a small coffee shop during their morning commutes. They talked and soon after exchanged contact information. Soon the two met on their first date, then their second, followed by 6 more. Before the two young lovers finally agreed to walk the island together and get married, the entire city stopped and watched as their savior and his newfound love were united in holy matrimony. Many attended the wedding, including Bruce Wayne and Oliver Queen. Both became friends and business partners of Minato. This was just the beginning of Minato's happiness, as a year later he became a father. Surprisingly, a father of twins, a boy and a girl named Naruto and Mito Namikaze. Both children looked like a good mix of their father and mother, as they both had bright cerulean blue eyes and golden blonde hair. Although they leaned more towards their mother in the looks department, as both twins had her nose, creamy white lips and skin, the Namikaze family quickly became Gotham's staple family, charging the media to follow their every move and what happened in their lives. Minato tended to ignore all the fame and camera flashes, while Harleen tended to enjoy the spotlight at times. Especially when she got to show off her adorable children, whom she loved as much as she loved Minato. That's why Harleen retired from her job at Arkham and spent her time raising her children. It wasn't like she and Minato needed the money from her job anyway, and besides, Harleen would rather spend time with her babies than with crazy psychopaths. Although Minato continued to work closely with Wayne Tech and Queen Consolidated, he hoped that his collaboration with 2 other major corporations could not only help Gotham and Star City, but also expand their reach and assistance to the entire world. Something Batman and the newly resurrected Green Arrow could never do alone. However, that was 5 years ago, and a lot has changed since then. Gotham has become a much safer city, and poverty is at an all-time low. Even crime has taken a drastic hit, thanks to Batman and all the help Minato and Bruce have given the police department. Speaking of helping out, Gotham's favorite family was currently at the annual GCPD ball, where Gotham's wealthy families would come together and honor the brave men and women who served their city. Their honor, of course, would be to open their wallets to help fund their local protectors. Regarding the conduct of the brave men and women who protect this city, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. Minato Namikaze began as he looked around the large room, which was filled with active and retired police officers, both men and women. It also housed some of Gotham's elite. Minato himself was dressed in an expensive black tuxedo. He wasn't one for luxury items, but for an important night like this, he made an exception. I came to this city 8 years ago, and a lot has happened since then. I've made friends, started a family, and probably pissed off a few people here and there. Minato admitted with a small laugh, earning chuckles from around the room. Minato smiled and raised a glass of champagne in the air. So much has changed, and tonight is a testament to that truth. Gotham is finally healing and becoming a much better city. This, of course, is thanks to all the work our excellent men and women of the GCPD put into protecting our city. Minato looked at his family sitting at a table with his friend Bruce Wayne. To Gotham's finest, they are the true heroes this city needs. Harleen and Bruce raised their glasses in the air, as did the other participants in the room. This, of course, was followed by a loud cheer for Gotham's favorite blonde-haired billionaire. Smiling to himself, Minato leaned into the microphone and pointed with one hand behind his back. Ladies and gentlemen, I turn the evening over to Commissioner Jim Gordon. Walking toward Minato, Jim extended a hand. Thank you for everything you've done for this city. The commissioner expressed his deepest gratitude. Minato smiled and accepted the hand. I'm not doing this for the gratitude, just for the cause. I must thank you and your police commissioner. The two men nodded and turned to a cameraman, who took a photo of the two men. Enjoy your night, Minato, Jim said before releasing the handshake. Same here, Commissioner, Minato replied before exiting the stage and heading toward his family. He chuckled to himself when he noticed his wife flinging her arms in the air, revealing her rather outgoing personality. She was the belle of the ball and, in his opinion, the most beautiful woman in town. She was dressed in a long, form-fitting white dress, which was open to reveal her large bust and a giant diamond necklace. Her daughter, Mito, was at her side, wearing a similar, but more elegant, white dress. She wore a small, thin gold chain necklace around her neck. Minato smiled and walked between the two women he loved more than life itself. How are you two beautiful ladies? The blonde asked, giving them both kisses on the cheeks before taking a seat. We're making a nice pudding, a small table, but I enjoyed the speech. Harleen responded with a warm smile. Bruce cleared his throat and smiled. Yeah, that was quite a speech from a humble man. You should take some credit. None of this would be possible without you. I can't take all the credit now. You, the police, and even Oliver have been a great help to me over the years. Minato spoke with a sincere smile. You all only play a part in all of this, just like I do. Bruce smiled with a small nod and looked at Naruto. The young blonde man wore a black suit like his father, though his face, like his mother's, screamed mischief. The vigilant bat made a mental note to keep a close eye on the boy. Especially after the last time Naruto played a prank on Bruce, he knew the boy couldn't be trusted without a watchful eye. Hey, speaking of Ollie, where's that playboy? I thought you sent him a pudding invitation? Harleen asked as she looked at her husband. Bruce smiled and looked at his friend's wife. He called me earlier. Oliver is tied up with an earl right now, he explained gently. Send your best. Harleen perked up at the mention of a count. Oh, so Ollie must be shaking hands with some very important people. Let's hope this earl doesn't have any attractive young daughters. After all, you know what a womanizer he can be. The three adults laughed at their friend's tendency with women. Naruto and Mito, meanwhile, paid little attention to the adults. Naruto was busy playing with something under the table, while his sister mouthed the words, no, and stop. Let's hope Oliver isn't mixed up with this Count Vertigo I've been hearing about. Minato chuckled, making Bruce tense a little. His friend didn't know about his or Oliver's secret identity. I highly doubt it. That's Green Arrow's business. Oliver can barely make himself breakfast, let alone take on a criminal like Vertigo. Bruce joked, trying to get the idea of Oliver fighting a villain out of his head. Minato and Harleen laughed and nodded. Yeah, I think you're right, Bruce. Oliver doesn't have what it takes to be a vigilante. The blonde billionaire snickered. Bruce nodded, but the sound of a child's laughter caught his attention. Looking at Naruto, he noticed a 5-year-old laughing as he tried to silence himself with his hand. Something fun, Naruto? The black-haired bachelor asked. Naruto shook his head, his facial expressions betraying him. No way, Uncle Bruce. Mito just told me a funny joke. The 5-year-old lied. Bruce chuckled and nodded. Really? Because Mito has been pretty quiet, even though in the last 10 minutes you've unscrewed the salt shaker, put hot sauce in my untouched drink, and tried to tie my shoes. Did you try? Naruto muttered in surprise. Bruce smiled and pointed under the table. Take a look. Naruto lifted the cloth, looked under the table, and found Bruce's shoes tied tight. His own were tangled up in a giant mess. Naruto looked back at Bruce, his eyes wide. When did you do it? When I tied your shoes or when I pressed the salt shaker? Bruce leaned across the table with a sly grin. Or were you wondering when I switched our drinks? Naruto's jaw hit the table, as he didn't believe his one-legged billionaire surrogate uncle could turn him around that quickly. Harleen leaned across the table and pinched her son's cheek. Ah, my poor baby, he got teased by his own uncle. Okay, Mommy's going to have to show you how to get away with it better. Minato, Bruce, and even Mito sighed at the woman's promise. She loved her children, but sometimes her mischievous behavior didn't make her the best role model. Honey, maybe encouraging this kind of behavior isn't the best course of action. Minato tried to persuade his wife, even though he knew it wouldn't work. Now pudding. Harleen was interrupted when the ballroom doors slammed open, followed by several armed men bursting into the room. No one move! A thug shouted, as dozens of gunshots flew through the air. Screams echoed throughout the room. Minato bent down and placed protective hands over his wife and daughter. Bruce placed a hand on Naruto, ensuring the blonde was safe. Standing at the podium, Jim Gordon laughed as he pointed a gun at the thugs. Regardless of which gang you're with, you made a very stupid decision tonight. Just look around. This room is full of armed police officers. You're out of commission and shot, so put your weapons down and surrender, the commissioner demanded, still holding his weapon. As if in a line, several police officers pointed their guns at the thugs. However, the thugs didn't budge an inch. Instead, they stood firm against the overwhelming force. That's where you made a mistake, Commissioner. Our boss knew very well what was going on tonight. This isn't a robbery, but a lesson for the people of Gotham. All the thugs seemed ready to fire their weapons at any moment. This is to prove that the Penguin Gang still owns this city. And we sure aren't afraid of the cops. Kill them all, guys! Machine gun fire filled the room, as bodies began to fall to the floor one by one. Some tried to escape by running for cover or toward an exit, but that only made them clear targets for the thugs' gunfire. Bruce, who experienced these kinds of situations daily, was able to react quickly. He grabbed Naruto and placed the boy on the floor, under the table cover. Batman was definitely needed right now, but before Bruce could slip away, he needed to make sure his friends were okay. Looking down at the table, Bruce was shaken to the core. Mito and Minato had been caught in the crossfire. Meanwhile, Harleen stared at her son and husband in horror. Harleen, get down! Bruce ordered as he forced Harleen under the table. Then, as he looked at Naruto clinging to his mother's body, he stiffened. Stay here, you'll be safe. I'll take care of everything. Rising, Bruce looked at his friend and his goddaughter. A tear slipped from his eye and he clenched his fists. Tonight, Batman was going crazy. As Bruce ran to grab his gear, Naruto clung to his mother for dear life. He soon found himself surrounded by a thin, wet liquid and his mother staining his clothes red. Mommy, I'm scared. Naruto moaned softly, which was almost drowned out by the sound of gunfire. Harleen placed her hand on the ground and then inspected the blood covering her hand. It was her son and husband's blonde hair. Smearing the blood onto her white dress, she began to laugh hysterically. Naruto looked at his mother with fear in his eyes, half of her hair covered in blood, while the other half remained golden blonde. This image of his mother, along with the events of tonight, will continue to haunt Naruto for the rest of his life. 3 days later, 3 days have passed, 3 long and harrowing days since the deaths of Minato and Mito Namikaze. They, along with 27 others, lost their lives that night. Of the gunmen who attacked the ball, only one remained. The man was taken to Arkham, as he refused to give information and pleaded insane. Since then, Batman had been on a rampage searching for the Penguin. The streets of Gotham were littered with the beaten and bloodied gang members Batman had left behind. However, Batman wasn't alone in his quest to find the Penguin and avenge his friend. Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow, had flown in to join Bruce in his pursuit. Although both men had so far been vague about the penguin's whereabouts, during this pursuit of the penguin, another problem slowly arose. This problem involved the last two surviving members of the Namikaze family. Minato and Mito's funeral had recently taken place. Although many mourned the loss of Gotham's favorite blonde and his daughter, the service itself had just ended, and not many attended. Bruce's butler, Alfred, orchestrated the entire funeral, and the Wayne family paid for everything. This was for the best, as Harleen wasn't in the right frame of mind to do anything at the time, barely able to dress and attend the funeral. Though few could blame her, she watched as the man she loved and her son bled to death on top of her. Aside from Harleen and Alfred, there weren't many other people present at the funeral. Commissioner Gordon, along with a squad of police officers and his daughter Barbara, were present. Along with Naruto, of course, and a strange man no one knew, but considering the circumstances, no one asked why he was there. Neither Bruce nor Oliver attended the funeral. They wanted to mourn their friend. Although they agreed to find Penguin and bring him to justice, it was the only way to properly grieve their loss. Little did the two heroes know, a young blonde man needed them, and they weren't there. Naruto was alone, his father was dead, his sister was dead, and his mother might be too. However, Naruto was currently standing over the freshly covered graves of Minato and Mito. Both were buried behind the Namikaze estate. Surrounded by the flower garden Naruto, Mito, and Harleen had planted together, it pained Naruto to look at his family's names on the gravestones, but he didn't want to leave the place he was standing in. Alfred had just escorted his mother back to the property, while Gordon, his daughter, and the GCPD officers had given Naruto their best shot before leaving the blonde alone. "Why did you have to die?" Naruto muttered softly, as thunder sounded from above. The sound of thunder was followed by footsteps, and a man stopped beside Naruto. "When I met Minato, he was just a boy like you," the unknown man explained. "He came to me alone and broken, so I forged him with the hardest steel and the best weapon possible." Naruto remained silent, but looked at the man out of the corner of his eye. The man looked young, no older than his father. This confused Naruto, because from the man's words, he should be much older than his father. Unless there was something Naruto lacked, but for 5 years and growing up in Gotham, Naruto was quite skilled. The man himself was dressed in a sleek black suit with a bit of flair added. His black hair was long, but didn't reach past his ears. The man had a beard, but like his hair, it wasn't very long. The one thing Naruto noticed was the silver ring around his right hand. The ring itself resembled the head of a demon. "It's a real shame, shot down by a coward with a gun. That's a dishonorable death. Minato deserved better than that." The man then bent down and placed a hand on Minato's gravestone. He then began to mutter a few words in a language foreign to Naruto. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, when he finally found his voice. The man ignored Naruto for a moment and continued his chant. After a brief moment, though, he stood up and overtook the blonde. "I am Ra's al Ghul, leader of the League of Assassins. I was your father's teacher and mentor, long before he left the League and even longer before you were born." The now-named Raz explained with power behind his words. "What is the League of Assassins?" Naruto asked, not having heard his father mention the group before. "We are a group your father was a member of. A group that kills for the good of humanity. A group you will now join." Ra finished, crossing his arms behind his back. Naruto clenched his fists. "And why would I join you?" "My mom said killing is bad." Raz nodded and began walking. "You see, boy, there is no choice here. You are the son of a fallen assassin, and now you will join our ranks." Raz walked in front of Naruto and smiled. "I can see hatred in your eyes. That is the first step. Look, I will take that fire of that overwhelming rage and forge you into the hardest steel. Just like I did with your father. And I don't want to be made of steel. I want my sister and my father back." Naruto screamed angrily, tears beginning to flow from his eyes. Raz looked Naruto in the eyes and spoke with conviction. "You are dead, and that is life. I could bring you back, but I will not. Instead, I will turn you into a weapon. One strong enough to overcome any enemy. You will become the will of Ra's al Ghul." Naruto opened his mouth to protest, but Raz spoke again. "Do you love your mother, boy?" Naruto nodded with a little hesitation. "Well, what if I told you I can make you strong? Strong enough that no one can take you away like those gunmen did to your father and sister." Naruto remained silent. He didn't know what to say. If that's not enough, what if I told you this, Penguin? Everyone blames him for the shooting. He's not the man responsible for anything and is, in fact, innocent. Ra then placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and squeezed tightly. What if I could give you the tools to hunt down and kill the man responsible for Minato and Mito's deaths? Naruto took a hard drink. I'll accept your offer then. I'll become Ra's al Ghul's will. I'll avenge my family, the blonde declared, pleasing Raz with his words. But I have 2 questions. Raz spread his hands. Speak openly, boy. First of all, what's so special about my father that a leader of a secret group came here after his death? Raz smiled. It's simple. Your father left the League, but the only way to do that is to outlive my blade. Your father did, making him the new Ra's al Ghul by name, but he refused the honor. Naruto nodded. He was 5 years old, so he didn't understand everything, but he accepted the answer for now. Okay, now answer why you want me to join the League. Once again, Ra's lips curved into a wide grin. You contain the blood of one of, if not the finest assassins the League has ever produced. That's why I will train you to become something greater than just Naruto Namikaze. Naruto nodded. I understand. Good, now go pack your belongings and say goodbye to your mother. I'll be back in an hour to pick you up. Raz explained before leaving Naruto with nothing but his own thoughts. I promise. Naruto began as he looked at his father and sister's gravestones. I'll find the man responsible for this, and I'll kill him. After all, I am a murderer. With Batman and Green Arrow. Batman and the Green Arrow stood side by side, both overlooking a large warehouse across the street. Are you sure he'll be here? Oliver asked, starting to get impatient. Batman brought a pair of binoculars to his mask and nodded. I questioned 6 different members of Penguin's crew. They all told me the same place, believe me, Oliver. We'll catch that son of a bitch tonight. Oliver nodded and pulled his hood over his head, just in time to see a black Suburban driving toward them. Is that him? Green Arrow asked, already touching an arrow in his quiver. Grinning to himself, Batman put away his binoculars. Yes, that's Penguin, just in time. Both superheroes watched as the subway entered the warehouse, only to be blocked from behind by Penguin's thugs. So we take the stealth approach, Bruce? Oliver asked, looking to his left and finding no one there. Shaking his head, Oliver shot an arrow with a line attached into the warehouse. I hate it when he does that. The billionaire grumbled before rappelling down toward a window. With Naruto, after he finished packing some clothes, Naruto entered his mother's room to break the news of his departure. However, when he entered the room, he didn't find her cleaning and on suicide watch. In fact, she was jumping around the room, humming to herself. She was still in her funeral dress, but her face was covered in white powder makeup and her hair was tied in 2 long pigtails. Honestly, for the first time, Naruto was afraid of his mother. Mom? Naruto spoke in a low voice. Noticing her son, Harleen perked up and hugged the boy, rubbing some powder on his cheek in the process. Oh, it's my little puddin' cup. How are you, honey? Harleen asked, giving her son a crooked smile. I've been a better mom. Call me Harley now. She interrupted. Mom, you should sit down, the 5-year-old advised, rejecting his mother's request as he did so. I have something to tell you. Harley shrugged and plopped down on top of her and Minato's bed. What do you want to talk about? Naruto walked next to his mother and sat down. An old friend of Dad's approached me, from Ra's al Ghul. Harley spoke without missing a beat, speaking in a voice that reminded Naruto of his mother before the incident. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Do you know that man, Mommy? Harley smiled and ruffled her son's hair. There's nothing I don't know about your father. So tell me, what does that man want? Naruto looked down and fiddled with his hands. He's going to take me, to train me to be strong. He also told me he'll help find the man responsible for Dad and Mito's deaths. That way I can kill him. Harley nodded and stretched her body, allowing Naruto to see the necklace around her mother's neck. It was Mito's first gold necklace, and it had Harley's diamond wedding ring and her father's tied to it. That's acceptable, from what your father told me. This Ari guy is a real jerk, but he'll keep his promise to train you. Harley then zoned out for a moment. Besides, when you're gone, Mommy's going to do things. Bad things, things she doesn't want you to see, Mom. Naruto muttered softly, surprised by his mother's words. Harley laughed and returned to her silly self. I love you, my little pudding cup, the woman declared happily before kissing her son's cheek. Just make sure you write me some letters. I love you too, Mom, and I promise I will. With Batman and Green Arrow. End of the line, Oswald! Batman shouted as he grabbed the hulking man and slammed him into a wall. Penguin grunted in pain and looked behind Batman. He wasn't pleased to find the Green Arrow standing next to his defeated gang. What the hell? You usually wait until I do something illegal before breaking into my hiding places. Penguin shouted angrily, just before a fist sank into his face. And now you brought your boyfriend here with you. Don't play with me, Oswald. Because of you, 27 people died. One of those people was a 5-year-old girl. Batman roared before slamming his fist into Penguin's stomach. Penguin snorted in pain, then smiled at Green Arrow and began to speak. So if he's a bad cop, what are you? A good cop? Bruce pulled Penguin by the hem of his black coat and threw it at Oliver, who punched the man in the face, sending him sprawling onto the concrete. No, I'm a worse cop. Green Arrow growled before pulling out his bow and arrow. Now tell us, why did you say hit the ball, GCPD? I don't know what you're talking about. I've been in Bloodhaven for the past week. I'm trying to make an arms deal with a local gang. The Penguin shouted. If you don't believe me, just check the damn crates. They're full of weapons. You're lying, shouted the Green Arrow, shooting an arrow into the side of the Penguin's head. Now start talking, or the next one won't miss. Hold on. Batman shouted from the side, currently scanning all the crates. There are machine guns everywhere. Your story checks out, Oliver snarled. So, he's committed another crime. Big deal. That doesn't excuse him from calling the attack on the GCPD ball. Batman nodded and approached his friend. That's true, but an attack like that doesn't fit Oswald's normal modus operandi. It was a terrorist attack with no monetary gain. I think it was a setup. The question is by whom? Batman then kicked Penguin onto his back and placed a boot on his chest. Who would trick you? The Penguin sighed. How the hell should I know? You're the world's greatest detective, figure it out. Batman snarled and kicked the side of Penguin's head, knocking him unconscious. Oliver sighed and crossed his arms. What's our gain from here? If Penguin didn't order the hit, and our only remaining thief won't talk, how can we find out who's responsible? Batman shook his head and started calling Alfred. I don't know, I just don't know. Though let's make sure Penguin and his team get a one-way ticket to Arkham. 11 years later, Naruto 16 years old, walking down a stone hallway, lit by the flickering light of torches, Ra's al Ghul moved toward the sound of metal clashing against metal. Soon, Ra's found himself in an open chamber where 6 individuals were fighting. Well, to be more precise, 5 members of the League were teaming up against a young teenager in the center. This teenager was Naruto Namikaze. All 6 were dressed in similar clothing, which was all black. They had leather arm, leg, shoulder, and chest protectors on top, which were also black. Each fighter also had a long katana, a bow, and a quiver on their back. As Naruto fought his attackers, one slipped through his defenses and nearly stabbed him. Though with remarkable speed, Naruto evaded the blow and grabbed his attacker's arm, breaking the man's arm in one swift motion. Screaming in pain, the man dropped his sword. Naruto snatched it back before redirecting it toward the man's stomach. Then, without missing a beat, Naruto continued fighting the 4 still-breathing assassins. An unnamed assassin stepped away from the group and bowed. Then, taking aim, he shot an arrow at Naruto's head. The blonde didn't even blink as he caught the arrow out of thin air. Then, with little remorse, he stabbed the arrow into another assassin's chest, killing the man by stabbing his heart. Ra's watched with a pleased expression as Naruto fought his opponents. The blonde was a true warrior, just like his father. Naruto was left alone against 3 enemies and decided to go on the offensive. He moved quickly and took one assassin by surprise. As a result, Naruto slashed the man's stomach with his katana. As the man fell to his death, Naruto sheathed his sword and grabbed his bow. Then, turning on his heel, he grabbed 2 arrows and fired them. The first deflected an enemy arrow, while the second lodged itself in the neck of another assassin. And then there was one. Naruto muttered before sweeping his leg, kicking the last man onto his back. Then, pulling an arrow back and performing a killing shot, he finished the man off. That's me. Ra's began clapping and walking toward Naruto. I'm very impressed by your little performance. You've come a long way in 11 years, Theolab. Naruto removed his hood and mask, revealing his long blonde hair, pale skin, and cold blue eyes. Naruto then knelt on his right leg and bowed his head. Thank you, Master. Raz smiled and gestured with his hands for Naruto to stand. Stand up, Theolab. We have much to discuss. So follow me. Naruto did as he was told and stood next to his teacher. For a moment they walked in silence, but Naruto finally broke the silence. What did you want to talk about? Have I failed the league in some way? Naruto asked in a dry tone. Raz laughed and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. No, Theolab. You're my most beloved and trusted student. You've done everything, but you failed at the league. In fact, I have a mission for you. I see. Who's the target? Naruto asked, already knowing the gag of what his mission would entail. He would have to take someone's life for the league. Raz put his arms behind his back and looked up. 11 years ago, Naruto Namikaze disappeared from Gotham. He was presumed dead and has died. Now what remains is Theolab, the fox, and the will of Raz Al Ghul. The demon's head smiled and looked down at the young teen. Today I release you upon the world, but I have conditions you must meet. Raising his eyebrow, Naruto was confused. Conditions? Like what do I love? Do you remember when I first took you in? I told you I would help you avenge your sister and your father. Raz smiled at the fire burning in his student's eyes. How could I forget? That's what I like to hear. The master chuckled darkly. Look at Raz Al Ghul, there are few things I don't know. Like, for example, there's still a man alive who was a shooter involved in the deaths of your sister and father. He's spent the last 11 years in Arkham, and since then, he hasn't spilled an inch of information about his attack. Naruto clenched his fists, the information he'd been given not sitting well with him. I see. The blonde growled in rage. Calm down, Theolab. Your mission is simple. Head to Gotham, infiltrate Arkham, and interrogate and kill the man who killed your family. Then follow the clues until you find who was truly responsible for the murder of your father and sister. Naruto bowed. I will complete this mission without fail. The blonde promised. I know you will with Theolab. That's why I'm releasing you from the league, under certain rules, of course. Which are, you will not cross the league, and if I call you, you will follow my orders without question. Of course, Raz, I am your weapon. Naruto declared without hesitation. I know, now get ready to go. You're going home to Theolab. I just hope Gotham is ready for you. And I also hope young Damien doesn't miss you too much. Arkham Asylum, 1 day later. It was the dead of night, and the cemetery's shift had moved on. So the number of guards at Arkham was quite low, perfect for a stealthy assassin. Naruto moved silently, while staying in the shadows. As he snuck around the asylum, he would take out any of the few guards he encountered. Naruto didn't kill these guards, but he made sure they weren't a problem. After all, he had 2 agendas for being in Arkham. After 20 minutes of sneaking around, Naruto arrived at a cell with a prisoner inside. One James King, a criminal who made his living by robbing and killing the people of Gotham. He had been a member of a gang of every major crime boss in Gotham, save one. There was something special about James, though, and that wasn't hard to understand. He was the only surviving gunman from the GCPD's ball massacre. As Naruto stared at the man through the steel bars, he grabbed his bow and arrow. James was currently sleeping, but Naruto was about to change that. Though he first clicked on a microphone next to his mouth, this was a device to hide his voice by making it sound deeper. Really, Naruto only did this for the intimidation factor. James King! Naruto growled before shooting an arrow into the man's leg. James's eyes snapped open and he groaned in agony. What the buck? The criminal seethed before noticing the figure in black holding a bow. What the hell are you? One of those stupid vigilantes? Naruto picked up a keychain he stole from a guard, then unlocked James's cell. Naruto took a few steps inside. Unfortunately for you, I'm not. James held the arrow's entry point, trying to stop the bleeding. Guards! The guards are coming here now. Naruto smiled and took another arrow. The guards won't come, I've already taken care of them. Finishing his explanation, Naruto pulled another arrow back and pointed it at James. Now you and I are going to talk, fuck dash. Gwa! James squealed as another arrow flew towards his shoulder blade. We can do this all night. I have plenty of arrows. Naruto grabbed another arrow and pointed it at James. 11 years ago, you attacked the GCPD ball. Who were you working for? I'll tell you the same thing I told Batman and that other idiot with arrows 11 years ago. Buck you! James clenched his fists and stared at the ceiling. This time he didn't scream or mutter an insult when the second arrow slammed into his arm. I don't have much patience, Mr. King. Naruto walked over to James and grabbed the arrow on his shoulder. Who are you working for? I don't remember. The man murmured weakly. Naruto snarled and snapped the arrow in half, widening the wound with the motion. Start remembering, Naruto ordered, as he took the broken arrow and stabbed it into James's leg. Why does it matter? You'll kill me anyway. James seethed, spitting some blood at Naruto. Shaking with rage, Naruto shook James's hand back. I am Theolab, an assassin from the League of Assassins. I could kill you without remorse. It would be swift and painless. Naruto then pulled the man by his prison uniform and smirked. Or I could place you in the most horrific torture of your life. I could take you to my master, and he'll have you beaten, stabbed, and burned for decades. You're lying. James growled in disbelief, not believing the blonde's words could be true. This enraged Naruto, causing him to throw James against the wall. Naruto held an arrow over James's manhood. I'm getting tired of your shit, Mr. King. Beaten and bloodied, James sighed in defeat. I surrender. I'll tell you what I know. Just make my death quick. Naruto nodded and stood up. Talk then. I owed someone money, an old friend of mine from Jump City. Turns out 11 years ago he owned someone else's money, someone really scary. I didn't get a name or anything, just a deal. He'd clear my debt completely, but I had to take a job working for him. I didn't even know what I was getting into until we stormed the event with guns blazing. There was a girl there, man, and I killed her. What's your friend's name? Naruto asked, his right hand trembling. Mizuki. His name is Mizuki Sato. He runs some of the dock operations that go on in Jump City. Last I heard he still does. You find Mizuki and then you can find the guy who called the job. James finished explaining just as an arrow sank into his chest. Naruto lowered his mask and removed his hood. Tears slowly trickled down his cheeks. I'd say, tell my sister I love her, but you won't see her where you're going. Naruto raised his bow in the air and then placed it above his head. Then, without even blinking, Naruto left James's bleeding, lifeless corpse inside his open cell. Now there's just one more thing left to do, Naruto muttered, as he lifted his mask and pulled the hood over his head. Then, moving quickly, Naruto vanished into the shadows and headed toward his final destination. Moving quickly, Naruto wasted no time heading to his destination. Which wing of Arkham was the one where high-priority inmates were placed? If so, there were plenty more guards patrolling. Naruto, not having much time to move around Arkham, considered killing the guards. That way, he could make his escape plan much easier. However, he decided against it. So he stayed in the shadows and disabled all the guards who stood in his way. Finally, Naruto came across a large iron gate. Above it, the words Katayan and Danger flashed red. Laughing at the situation and why he was here, Naruto held an unconscious guard's hand over a handheld scanner. The scanner flashed green, and the gate began to open. Man, this is too easy, the blonde muttered as he walked into the room. Naruto passed by several cells without looking at the criminals inside. He saw several prominent names, such as Killer Croc and Bane. Both were heavily chained to a wall. He also noticed Penguin, Poison Ivy, Two-Face, the Riddler, and many more. He finally reached the end of the room. As he passed another cell, a voice called out to him. Here for little old me? The Joker's voice spoke softly, just before he burst into a fit of laughter. Naruto snorted. As if. The blonde replied before walking past. As Naruto walked, he couldn't help but smile. His mother was wearing the standard Arkham uniform and casually applying nail polish to her fingers. Harley Quinn. Naruto began in his disguised voice, drawing an arrow and pointing it at his mother. I've come for you. Some of the inmates poked their heads out of their cells, all waiting to see if Gotham's Queen of Crime was about to be sacrificed. Oh, looks like it's goodbye for little Harley. The Joker laughed happily. Harley smiled and removed her nail polish, then, with a bounce in her step, walked toward her cell door. If you wish, crazy clown, my little put and cup is here to break me out, she declared victoriously. After all, what mom wouldn't recognize her own child? Naruto laughed, and put away his bow. I thought I could get you that time, the blonde admitted, before casually walking over and opening Harley's cell phone. Harley walked over and hugged her son. Even a trained assassin can't stop a loving mother, she explained before tightly gripping his uniform. The last letter you sent me, you said that. He's dead, Mom. I killed him! Like I said I would. Naruto interrupted and felt his mother hug him tightly. That's my boy, Naruto smiled. Dad was right, you were never a good influence. Harley couldn't help but laugh. What can I say? I loved your father and Mito, but you and I have always been different from them. It only took losing them to find out. Naruto squeezed his old man around his mother. I'm leaving for Jump City tonight. I got a tip from King before I killed him. This clue should lead me to the person responsible for Dad and Mito's deaths. After 11 years, we'll finally get our justice. Harley stepped away from her son and nodded. Yes, we will, but at least spend the night in Gotham. I want to spend a little more time with my putt and cup. Naruto allowed his mother to wrap her arms around his. Fine, I can agree to that, the blonde replied, as the mother-son duo walked away, unaware that the camera was recording the masked Naruto and Harley escaping. Chapter 2. Jump City. A full day had passed since Naruto killed James King. In that time, he and his mother had spent time together as a family. They ate dinner, laughed, and talked about everything going on in their lives. Doing so allowed Naruto to see the true impact Minato and Mito's deaths had on Harley. She was no longer the sweet, playful woman she once was. Now Harley had a heart of stone and was Gotham's biggest crime boss. Naruto still loved his mother though, and besides, who was he to judge? After all, he was a trained assassin who probably killed more people than Harley's entire criminal operation. Currently, Naruto and Harley were inside a large black limousine, heading towards Jump City. Naruto tried to convince Harley that he'd be fine on his own, but his mother insisted. She loved her son and would do anything to help him. Naruto sat across from his mother in an expensive leather seat. He was dressed in his street clothes, which were a tight black t-shirt and a pair of matching cargo pants. Over his black shirt, Naruto also wore a black and orange zip-up hoodie. Naruto finished his outfit with black and orange sneakers. At his feet, Naruto had 2 black bags. One bag held all his spare clothes and necessities, while the second held his League of Assassin uniform and gear. Harley was dressed in tight jeans, a white crop top, and a black leather jacket. She had Mito's necklace tied around her neck, which still had her and Minto's wedding rings attached. You know, I could have gotten to Jump City on my own. I'm the best assassin the League has had since my father and Ra's. I was perfectly capable of taking a train to Jump City. Naruto grumbled, crossing his arms. Harley laughed and took a drink from the minibar beside her. Am I such a bad mother for wanting a little more time with my baby? She asked with false sadness. After all, I haven't seen you in 11 years. Naruto looked out the window and sighed. I guess not. Harley smiled and took a sip from her glass before setting it down. That's what I like to hear. Oh, and pudding. Naruto looked back at his mother. Check the right pocket in the bag on the left side. Naruto raised an eyebrow and leaned toward the bag. Unzipping the pocket as instructed, he was hit by a wave of confusion. What's wrong, Mom? The pocket's empty. Harley hit her head and laughed. I'm an idiot. I meant my left, not yours, she explained, causing Naruto to sweat drop. Shaking his head, Naruto moved to the bag on his right. Then, following the instructions once again, Naruto took out a wallet, a checkbook, a cell phone, and a deed to a building. What is all this? Naruto asked, since none of these items were his. The wallet has your new credit card and a fake ID, along with $2,000 in cash. The checkbook is for you to write any checks, should the situation call for it. While the deed is for the apartment I bought for you in Jump City, you need a place to stay after all. Harley explained with a big smile. Naruto nodded and began putting the items away. And what's the cell phone for? Calling your mom, of course, and don't worry, I've put my number under 6 different contacts and 4 speed dials. Harley explained happily. That's wonderful, but how can you do this? Fake IDs, money, and a damn limo. I thought you were going to become Gotham's new crime boss, but all this is surprising. Naruto voiced his opinion rather loudly. Harley laughed. You forgot the pudding. You and I are still billionaires. Look, I'm not like most of those brain-dead idiots in Gotham. Before I started my organization, I created a few fake identities and transferred everything your father and I owed to them. Hide her assets. Naruto muttered, surprised by his mother's explanation. Harley nodded, glad her son noticed. Yeah, the police can't take a company, a house, and money you don't technically own. Though I must admit, running a criminal operation and a multi-million-dollar company can be pretty exhausting. Then she leaned toward her son and pointed at his face. I mean, look, Pudding, I'm already getting wrinkles. I'm only 21 for crying out loud. Naruto had a bead of sweat on the side of his head. Sure, Mom, you're as young as you feel, the blonde muttered with false sympathy, though his attention returned to his bag. Remembering what his mother told him, Naruto pulled out his new wallet and fake ID. I forgot to check. What's my new name now? I have to admit, I've gotten used to being called Theolab. Harley smiled from ear to ear and placed her hands in her lap. Naruto, who looked at the ID, had a small twitch in his eye. Really, Mom? The blonde sighed. Harley nodded and laughed. Yes, Naruto shook his head and looked at the fake ID. You know, the purpose of a fake ID is simple. It's used to give you a new identity so you can hide your real one. I know that, Puddin' Cup. That's why I had one made for you. It would be bad if people found out my son was alive and not missing anymore. Harley explained. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose and began massaging his face. Gender male. Height 6 feet 1 inch. Age 18. Oh, at least you changed that. And the best part of all. Name Naruto Quinn. What? I changed your last name too. Harley complained. I also had forged birth certificates, high school diplomas, and other things. You kept my first name. And changed my last name to your criminal persona. Naruto shouted in disbelief. Harley has a fake tear in her eye. I just wanted you to use the name I gave you, the blonde-haired mother admitted, wiping away her fake tears and smiling broadly. Besides, what's the fun in playing it safe? Well, for one thing, it goes against everything the League and Roz taught me. You know, staying in the shadows and out of sight is what assassins do. Harley dismissed his son. Don't stress the small stuff, you're smart enough to handle yourself. Besides, we should talk about an alibi for you. You know how to have a day job to help hide your other activities. Naruto nodded and decided to temporarily forget about his new identity. Very well, after everything you've done so far. I suppose you've got that department covered too, smart like her mommy. Harley praised as she handed Naruto 2 keys. The first key opens your new shop, while the second opens the apartment above said shop. Work and home together make life even better for me, Naruto said with a small smile, taking Harley's keys. Which shop? It's a bookstore. Harley inhaled happily, giving her son a wide-eyed smile. A bookstore? Naruto repeated half-heartedly. Out of everything, he chose a bookstore. Harley's face turned into a small pout. Now listen, Buster. Who's the biggest crime boss in Gotham? Naruto sighed and rolled his eyes. Your mom. And who's thought of all the possible angles that you and Roz didn't plan for? You did it. Who knows how to hide illegal activities? You do. And who is the most beautiful of all? Do I really have to answer that? Naruto grumbled. Harley crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow, giving her son an icy glare. One that only the most intimidating mothers could give. Naruto looked down and raised his hands in defeat. You're the most beautiful of all. Harley smiled and placed a hand over her heart. My pudding is so lovely. Someday you'll make a lucky girl happy. Yeah, I'm sure every girl loves a trained assassin who has an overprotective criminal mother. Naruto deadpanned. Harley smiled and raised a finger. You have a bookstore too. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, that just screams ladies. Besides, you never explained to me why you decided to give me a bookstore to manage. That's easy. A bookstore requires very little maintenance. All you do is put the books out there and wait for people to buy them. Second, most people who read books order them online or digitally. It's a failing business that no one will ever visit, Harley explained with a serious tone. Which is perfect since you have all the time to focus on your other activities. And you won't need any of the store's money. You know, because you're from a filthy rich family. Naruto was shocked. He never in a million years expected his mother to have everything so well planned. Mom, you're a genius, the blonde praised, his eyes wide open. Harley raised an eyebrow and smiled. Did you expect anything different? I didn't become Gotham's biggest crime boss because I'm pretty. I had 3 PhDs before I met your father and retired from Arkham. Naruto smiled. Retired just to become a resident. Harley matched his mocking smile, as mother and son were almost carbon copies of each other. You cheeky little brat, just like your mommy. Harley leaned over and hugged her son. I love you so much. I love you too, Mom. Naruto replied, just as he felt the limo pull up. Looks like we're here. Harley smiled and jumped out of the vehicle. It's time for the exclusive tour, the older blonde shouted, marching toward Naruto's new home. Naruto looked at his mother and slumped. Hooray! The younger of the two muttered as he grabbed his bags and stepped out of the limo. As they left, Naruto couldn't help but smile widely. I like the name. Naruto spoke to his mother, while looking at the name of the bookstore. Harley put her hands on her hips and smiled, proud of her work. Mythos Bookshelf, it does ring. Yes, it does. Naruto replied, feeling a little more proud of his new shop now. Well, don't just stand there, open the door. Harley instructed with a small laugh. Naruto took out the shop key and, with some hesitation, opened the door. Instantly, he was hit with the scent of books. Both new and old. Though when he stepped into his new shop, Naruto had to admit he was impressed. The store itself was quite large, with enough space for several shelves of books and even a small second floor. This served as a bar-top reading area on the balcony for customers. Naruto also noticed a large service desk, which had a large, closed door next to it. Follow me! Harley giggled as she grabbed her son and dragged him to the closed door. Naruto followed his mother, who practically kicked open the door, allowing Naruto to see a small office, which he assumed was his own. He also noticed a large staircase leading upstairs, which he assumed would lead to his new apartment. This is your office, Puddin', and there's the staircase that leads to your apartment. I didn't know how much space you needed, so I bought this building just to be safe. It has 10 rooms, Harley reported with a big smile. Oh, and it's time for my favorite part. Naruto followed his mother, his jaw hanging. 10 bedrooms? The blonde muttered. Harley stopped in front of a large bookcase, held out his hands, and waved them around the bookcase. He did so in a way that made the bookshelf seem more important than it was. And now for the best part, and your surprise. Harley began as she grabbed a book and pushed it forward, causing a clicking noise and the bookshelf to slide to the left, revealing to Naruto and Harley a large elevator. What the hell? Naruto gasped in surprise. Come on! There's no time to waste the Puddin' cup! Harley declared before dragging her son into the elevator and pressing a button. The elevator closed, locked, and began to descend. Then, after a few seconds, a ding sounded and the doors opened, revealing a large command center beneath the store. Harley happily jumped inside, while Naruto stayed in the elevator. He was too shocked to even move. Cutting-edge technology, courtesy of Namake's enterprise. Harley began as she walked past the dozens of computers in the room. A training area complete with weights and practice dummies, a storage area to keep your sword, bow, arrows, and uniform, and to top it all off, Harley plopped down in a large chair. The most comfortable-ass chairs money can buy. Naruto couldn't believe what he saw. He couldn't believe that any of this was real. Oh, and I bought you a motorcycle, Harley added, sounding more pleased with the chair than the bike. Mom, this is too much. Naruto gasped in shock, unable to believe his mother had done so much for him. You must have spent a small fortune. I did it. It's a good thing I have such a great fortune. The crime boss joked before standing up and walking over to his son. Naruto, I missed 11 of my son's birthdays. I missed 11 of my son's Christmases. I miss your entire childhood and Mito's. Here I am making up for that. Naruto let a small tear roll down his face as he hugged his mother. You don't have to make anything up. I love you, Mom, Naruto pointed out. Harley hugged him back and started to cry, but she still had a big smile on her face. I know, but I wanted to give you and Mito the world. Though after everything that's happened, I think this is a small start. That's perfect. At least you didn't go too far and buy me a giant cake. Naruto laughed, causing Harley to join in. Yeah, that would be silly, which is why I bought 11 cakes, Harley explained with a laugh. They're all in your apartment. Naruto smiled and shook his head. Well, let's go get some cake. After all, I'm starving. The next day, not long after Naruto settled into his new apartment, Harley left her son. After all, she had a criminal organization in Gotham that needed her attention. So now, Naruto's first official day on his crusade for justice began. He started his morning by getting up at 5 a.m. to get in an early workout. This was a ritual he'd grown accustomed to during his time in the League of Assassins. After his morning workout, Naruto went up to his apartment and made himself breakfast. He made himself a small bowl of cereal and walked into his living room. He was shirtless, wearing nothing but a pair of sweatpants and a towel around his neck. He then sat down on the couch his mother had bought him, having kindly furnished his new apartment. Placing his cereal on a table in front of him, Naruto grabbed a remote control and turned on his television. Greetings, this is Jane Summers with Channel 6 News. You're joining us live as we cover the Teen Titans battle with the criminals Mammoth, Gizmo, and Jinx. Naruto listened to the newscast and became interested in the live video feed. The Teen Titans, these are the Jump City heroes I've heard about. Naruto analyzed the video with a calculating eye. He watched with little surprise as a young, green-skinned teenager transformed into a T-Rex. He said the T-Rex lunged at the criminal Mammoth and knocked the large male into a building. Beast Boy, he can transform into any known animal, though he seems to use his abilities to attack head-on. A well-placed arrow or one laced with a tranquilizing agent would be enough to take him out, Naruto noted, picking up his spoon and starting to eat his breakfast. Back on the camera feed, Mammoth grabbed Beast Boy and threw the teenager around, displaying his remarkable strength. Strong, Naruto noted, though he spoke a little too soon as a blue bolt of energy struck Mammoth and knocked him back. But strength is nothing when you're slow. Naruto's attention then shifted to the individual who attacked Mammoth. Said teenager let out a loud booyah, causing Naruto to roll his eyes. So that's Cyborg, half human, half machine. Naruto continued to enjoy his cereal, paying little attention to the news. Enhanced strength, computer implants, and energy cannons. The more crutches he has, the more it hurts when they come off. After all, a sword and arrow never lose battery life. Naruto looked back at the television with a grin, just in time to see Gizmo clinging to Cyborg's back. Exactly my point, the blonde muttered, watching as Gizmo began to mess with Cyborg's wiring, forcing the team to fall over, defeated and unable to move. Before Gizmo could move another inch, however, several projectiles flew toward the teenager and hit his backpack, causing his gear to explode and sending him tumbling off Cyborg. Seeing this, Naruto was interested as he looked at the next Titan, Robin, the boy wonder, team leader, who was personally trained by Uncle Bruce. Naruto muttered, already knowing who Batman was thanks to Raz and his daughter Talia al Ghul. He seems skilled, but he telegraphs his every move. He's easy to predict and even easier to beat. Naruto then watched as the villain known as Jinx attacked Robin. She used some sort of energy wave, which destroyed a building next to the boy wonder, causing said building to fall on him. Though before Robin could be crushed, Starfire flew in and saved him. The alien Princess Starfire is a little different from the others. Super strong, she can fly, and she can shoot green energy blasts. However, it seems that helping her team is her weakness, one that anyone could exploit. Naruto watched as the Titans gathered around Cyborg. As they did, the three evil teens also regrouped. This proved to be a poor choice, however, as a large metal beam coated in black energy engulfed the three villains. Now this is interesting, Naruto muttered as he watched a woman float above the three restrained teens. She wore a blue hooded cloak with matching frilled blue ankle boots. Under her cloak, she wore a long-sleeved, leotard-like shirt that was blue-black with cuffs at her wrists that were the same blue as her cloak. As she floated to the ground, the camera got a solid look at her face. She had very pale, almost gray skin, making her look somewhat demonic. Her eyes, along with her short hair, were a beautiful violet color. Finally, she had a red and black bindi on her forehead. Looking at the teenager, Naruto could only think of one thing. Beautiful. Naruto gasped, completely forgetting that he was analyzing each of the Titans. In fact, the young assassin found himself staring at the teen entranced. So that's the 5th Teen Titan, Raven, and there you have it! The Teen Titans successfully saved the day again. This is Jane Summers' farewell. Naruto grabbed his remote and turned off his television. Then, as he clasped his hands together, the blonde began to think. 5 teenage superheroes could pose a future threat. I could eliminate them all, but that wouldn't be necessary. Naruto grabbed his empty cereal bowl and started walking toward his sink. My goals don't involve them, But if they choose to become a nuisance, well, I already know how to defeat them. All but one. Naruto muttered, setting his bowl down and thinking about Raven. Maybe I should learn to control my power? Later that night, night had fallen in Jump City, prompting most of the city's deviants to emerge from their hiding places. Drug dealers, muggers, and others began to swarm the streets. The Teen Titans never bothered with these types of criminals. They left them to the police. The Titans focused more on the bad guys the cops couldn't handle, so the group of teenagers wouldn't be overwhelmed by crime fighting. Although there was another teenager patrolling the streets now, he wasn't fighting crime. No, he was on a manhunt. Naruto, who was dressed in full League of Assassin gear, leaped from building to building, occasionally using his bow to shoot an arrow with a line attached to it to travel great distances. His goal was simple: find, interrogate, and kill Mizuki Sato. However, there was a problem finding Mizuki. This problem was that Naruto was unfamiliar with Jump City, had no idea where anything was, and had no contacts to help him. Regardless of his situation, Naruto was able to find one of the many docks where Mizuki could possibly be operating from. Naruto didn't know if he was in the right place. Hell, he didn't even know what this Mizuki character looked like. What he did know was that he could see several shadowy figures moving crates at the docks. So he was going to stop by and say hi. Leaping from a rooftop, Naruto ran under the cover of shadows. He quickly positioned himself on top of a large stack of metal storage crates. Crouching down toward the tallest crate, Naruto began counting the number of men he saw. 7 guys, all moving large wooden crates of something. The blonde man muttered before stealthily climbing down to one of the crates and opening it. Drugs? Well, at least I know I'm on the right track. Hey, what the hell are you doing? A male voice shouted. Naruto slammed the box shut and activated the device he used to deepen his voice. Which of you is Mizuki Sato? I've never heard of him. The man replied, pointing a shotgun at Naruto. But you're a dead man. Naruto barrel rolled into cover, just in time to avoid a shot to the chest. That's how we play. Naruto replied from behind a metal box, grabbing his bow and knocking an arrow. Naruto sped around the corner, and before the man could blink, an arrow pierced his throat, killing him with little effort. Although Naruto was forced to duck and run, the other 6 criminals began firing at him. One struck Naruto's shoulder as he ran, causing him to grunt in pain. Weapon of cowards! Naruto grumbled, before jumping over some cement and ducking for cover. Jason, Frank, go flank the bastards left and right! A man ordered in a stern voice. Nothing like that! Naruto muttered, as he threw several smoke bombs at the concrete blocks, allowing them to hide from their current attackers. The 6 men stopped moving, but continued firing their weapons into the smoke. However, 2 men fell dead, as 2 arrows flew through the smoke and into their eyes. You want to know the best part about a bow and arrow? They don't make a loud noise like a gun, making it impossible to detect through a fog of smoke. Naruto snickered so the bullies could hear him. But your friends found out the hard way. Damn, stupid heroes thinking they can just come and do whatever they want. A thug yelled before unloading his gun into the smoke. An arrow whizzed through the air and struck the man in the back, thrusting through his heart and out of his chest. Look, I'm not a hero. A hero wouldn't kill without remorse. Naruto's voice came from behind them, causing the 3 remaining criminals to spin around. I'm a murderer! Where are you? One of the 3 screamed in fear. What I want is simple. Naruto spoke, his voice now coming from his left. I just want information on one Mizuki Sato. We don't know any Mizuki. The man was silenced as an arrow entered his throat, causing him to fall. Tisk, tsk, tsk. That wasn't the answer I was looking for. Naruto began, just as another arrow flew towards another criminal's chest, leaving only one alive. The man looked at his slaughtered gang and began to panic. He dropped his weapon and ran off toward the city, hoping no one could pray and save him. Before he could even move half a meter though, a black blur blinded his vision, followed by the pain of a stabbing object in his chest. Naruto looked into the dying man's eyes with his own cold, lifeless eyes. Then, without any remorse, Naruto pulled his sword from the man's chest, allowing him to fall dead. Well, first night in town, Naruto began, touching the bullet wound in his shoulder, which was bleeding through his uniform. And things didn't go the way I wanted them to either. Naruto then walked away. He planned to go home, get ready, and come up with a new strategy to find Mizuki and any possible clues related to his family's murder. He had a long road ahead of him, and Naruto didn't even know what he was really getting into. The next morning, Titan's Tower. It was a normal morning at the Titan's house. Beast Boy and Cyborg were sitting next to each other playing video games. Starfire was floating around the kitchen cooking some kind of strange food, which was moving and making gurgling noises. Raven was sitting a few feet away from Beast Boy, in a meditative pose while reading a book. "Dude, where did you learn to play? You're horrible," Beast Boy joked, leaning towards his friend with a big grin. Cyborg glared at his friend for a moment, but when a huge explosion erupted in the game, he laughed victoriously. "Don't go celebrating yet, BB. We all know who the king of video games is." Raven looked up from her book and rolled her eyes. "All hail our king," the teen mumbled unenthusiastically. "Now, would you two be so kind as to put this down? I'm trying to read." "Come on, Raven, don't be such a grump. Put the book away and come play with us," Beast Boy offered, handing the controller over to her. "Pass," the teenager replied, looking back at her book. Starfire flew toward her friends, a big smile on her face and a bowl of water in her hand. "Guys, I've made breakfast." Beast Boy, Cyborg, and Raven stared at the so-called breakfast. They all had to hold a hand to their mouths to resist the urge to vomit. "It's okay, Star. BB and I already had a great breakfast," Cyborg quickly lied. "Yeah, we should have told you," Beast Boy added, just as his stomach growled and he laughed nervously. Starfire looked disappointed. "What about your friend Raven? Would you like breakfast?" "Yeah, I'm not going to eat that," Raven replied in a brutal but honest tone. "Oh, I see," Starfire muttered, just as she began to eat some of the garbage on her plate. Raven, Beast Boy, and Cyborg stared at their teammate with horrified expressions. Each of their mouths was wide open and quivering, while Starfire happily ate the disgusting food she cooked. "Dude, how's that eating?" Beast Boy whispered to Cyborg. The half-teenager, half-machine shrugged. "I guess he has a lot of strength and a big stomach," he replied softly. Raven looked at Starfire and shuddered as the girl dug into the water. "Brute," the teen muttered before returning to her book. Suddenly, the elevator leading to the building's exit opened wide, revealing the team leader, Robin. He looked nervous, as if something was bothering him. "Beast Boy, change the TV to channel 6, Robin demanded as he entered the room. Okay?" Beast Boy replied confused, turning off his and Cyborg's game and following the instructions. When the television turned on, the Titans were greeted by a news reporter sitting at a desk. A headline scrolled across the screen, reading, "New hero or possible villain?" "Robin, what's going on?" Raven asked, wanting to get to the point. Robin raised a finger to silence her. "Just watch, and then we can talk. Greetings, citizens of Jump City. If you're just joining us, allow me to explain the current situation. Last night, 7 men working for a local drug trafficking operation were, as the police put it, brutally murdered. 6 of the men had arrows lodged in their bodies, while the 7th had an entry wound that resembled a large blade." "Dude, what's going on?" Beast Boy gasped in surprise. Robin narrowed his vision at the television. "Just keep watching. These criminals were foiled and killed by one individual, and we have surveillance video of the entire ordeal. Now there's no audio, and we must warn our younger viewers, this is very graphic. Though after watching this clip, ask yourself, does Jump City have a new hero or a potential villain?" The clip began to play, showing the 7 men moving crates along the docks. "So far, no possible perpetrators have been identified. Whoever this guy is, he's good," Robin began, pointing at the screen. "It looks like no one's there, but he's perfectly blended into the shadows. Whoa, I see him!" Beast Boy yelled, noticing the outline of Naruto's boy hiding on a rooftop in the shadows. The next scene was Naruto running and opening a box, followed by a thug walking towards him. "He's looking for something," Raven noted in a simple voice. "That's assuming our mystery person is a him. Although I can see he's dressed all in black, he has a bow, some arrows, and a sword. This would make me think he has no powers." "Why would you think of that, friend Raven?" Starfire asked, not understanding her friend's reasoning. "He might have powers, but he still likes to use weapons," Raven shrugged. "Good point. I guess I'm speculating too much." Although when Raven stopped talking, the fight began to break out. All the drug dealers began to open fire on Naruto, who dodged them with little difficulty. For now, it seemed the completely unconscious teenager was in trouble. "The guys have good reflexes, but I'm with Raven right now," The way she's dodging the gunfire is pretty convincing that she doesn't have powers. Cyborg began, thinking of ways he and his team would save Robin and handle the situation. Robin nodded and crossed his arms. You make good points, but there's a lesson Batman taught me. He always told me to never give away all your abilities at once, to always sell yourself as weaker than you really are. It makes your opponents underestimate you, but this guy isn't Batman. Starfire pointed out. I know Star, but like I said, this guy is good. Robin began, just before the Titans watched in horror as Naruto began dropping bodies. Not a single arrow missed, and every single one was meant to deliver a killing blow. This guy isn't some thug or vigilante. He's highly trained. Beast Boy watched as Naruto placed his sword in the last man's stomach. Who is this guy? He just killed 7 people like it was nothing. Cyborg narrowed his eyes. He's definitely not a hero. It's against the Justice League charter for a hero to commit murder. Starfire raised an eyebrow. What? Star, we never told you about this, mainly because you had no problem with killing. So there was no need to, but when the Justice League was founded, they relied on rules to keep them in check. They were laws to prevent the League from acting like a group of gods who could take over the world. So, since the Teen Titans are for younger heroes who can't yet join the Justice League, we follow similar rules. Robin explained, as she watched Naruto disappear without a trace. That being said, I agree with Cyborg. This guy is no hero, and as long as he's in our city, we'll see him brought to justice. Raven, unlike her team, continued watching television. The clip played again, and for some reason, she found herself completely absorbed by the young masked killer. With Naruto walked into his living room for the rest of his morning routine. He'd finished his training, and now it was time for breakfast. As he sat down on his couch, he briefly nursed the weapon wound on his shoulder, which he'd patched up last night. Being on a crusade for justice against his family meant Naruto had to heal all of his own wounds. So he had to remove the bullet, clean it, and stitch it up himself. It was painful, especially since Naruto didn't have any painkillers. Though as a League-trained assassin, Naruto could handle pain very well. I might as well watch what's on TV. Naruto mused, clicking the remote and starting to eat some cereal. Naruto was shocked to see the clip of himself killing the thugs at the docks. I guess I should have scanned the area for cameras. Naruto spoke nonchalantly, thinking to himself that nothing could be done now. Putting down his cereal bowl, Naruto clasped his hands together and began to think. This is going to attract a lot of unwanted attention. The blonde sighed, leaning down and playing with his hair. Stupid, Roz would have my head for a rookie mistake. On TV, the news reporter was closing the story. And that's all we have on Jump City's latest mystery. Police are urging anyone with information about this individual to come forward. He may have arrested some drug dealers, but he still committed a felony by doing so. This is Jane Summers signing off. Please stay safe, Jump City. Naruto turned off the TV and began to think. Alright, there's one good thing about all this. Naruto began with a small smile, holding out his hand. Everyone will think I'm trained in stealth, archery, and swordsmanship. Which is true, but it will leave me with an ace up my sleeve. Naruto's hand began to glow with a green aura. I may have no control over this power. Roz would even compare it to an obstacle in combat due to my lack of skill. Though I have enough ability to provide a very pleasant surprise to whoever challenges me. Naruto's hand returned to normal. Though maybe I should take Ra's advice and train more. Being able to properly use this power would be very useful. Though I don't know how to do it. After all, my father never learned to control his power. Flashback Naruto Edad 9. Naruto and Raz were locked in a fierce fight, as both student and mentor fought for blood. As their swords clashed, Raz appeared to be losing. This, however, was a facade to lure Naruto into his trap and ultimately lead to the boy's defeat. Your posture has improved, and you leave little room for error. Raz began without missing a beat. However, Raz threw Naruto's sword into the air, then kicked his feet out from under him, causing Naruto to land on his back with the sword at his throat. You have a long road ahead of you, boy. R.A. finished, removing his sword from the blonde's neck. Damn! Naruto cursed as he slammed his hands against the stone floor. R.A. sheathed his sword and sighed. Keep your temper, boy. I didn't live and train for centuries to be beaten by a child. Keep your composure, and perhaps one day, you'll be a great warrior like your father. One who can even defeat the likes of me. How? How did my father beat you when he could have even saved himself? Naruto demanded to know. Ari placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Your father had powers, an amazing ability to control lightning. Though he had no control whatsoever. If he had tried to use his power, he could have accidentally killed everyone around him. That's why, when your family was killed, Minato chose to protect his daughter with his body. Which resulted in her and his own deaths. Dad had powers? Naruto muttered in disbelief. Yes, he did, but like I said, Minato had no control over his power. Though as his son, you carry his mutated gene. You may not have his exact powers, but I'd bet my life you have some form of his elemental manipulation. Naruto couldn't believe what he was hearing. He never imagined his father had powers in a million years. So, if I inherited my father's abilities, does that mean Mito would have had them too? Raz nodded. Logically, yes, but let's focus on finding out if you have these powers. Then, accomplish what your father couldn't, which is harness that power within you. End of flashback. All these years later, and I still don't have control over my power. Naruto clenched his fist and stood up. I need to fix that, but the question is how. Naruto stepped back and pushed his thoughts aside. I'll figure this out eventually. I have to prepare for tonight. Mizuki won't elude me forever. Later that night, Naruto moved quickly through the docks on the opposite side of the city. Yesterday, he had run into a dead end on the west side of the city, so he hoped the docks on the east side would allow for further progress on his mission. As he ran, Naruto made sure to avoid any chance of being spotted by cameras this time. After all, he wasn't usually the type of person to make the same mistake twice. Finally, Naruto spotted another group of suspicious people. It was the same scene as yesterday, but this time there were only 4 men on the docks moving crates. Naruto, not wanting to waste time, rushed toward the men. Then, before anyone could react, he shot arrows into their knee pads, disabling all 4 of them. Which one of you is Mizuki Sato? Naruto demanded, looking around for someone to talk to. His head was spinning, and his bow was drawn and moving between the 4 men. None of us are named Mizuki, so please leave us alone. One of the men pleaded in a voice filled with pain. Naruto placed an arrow through the heart of the man who spoke. Then you're of no use to me, the blonde replied in a cold tone. Naruto then turned his attention and killed 2 more men. Although as he held his bow toward the last man, the thug raised his hands. Wait! I have information on Mizuki! The man cried, gaining Naruto's attention. Speak! Naruto growled through his deeper voice. The man's hand began to shake as he placed his right hand in his pocket. This is my cell phone, the man began, showing the device to Naruto. It has all my contacts, including the drop-off points where we need to send these medications. Mizuki is on this list, along with the date and place where we were to meet him. Naruto loosened his grip on his bow, allowing an arrow to pierce the man's chest. Thank you, Naruto replied, snatching the phone from the man's hands. But I can't have any loose ends. The man looked at Naruto with a look of betrayal, but soon his body went limp and he collapsed dead. Naruto smiled inwardly and held the phone in the air. He finally had a solid lead on finding Mizuki. I'm so close, Mito, father. I'll avenge you both. Naruto muttered softly, but before he could move, an object flew toward the cell phone in Naruto's hand, shattering in the middle of it. Growling, Naruto noticed the large R symbol on the object. Then, in a rage, he ripped the object off the phone and stuffed it into his pocket. So, what do I owe the pleasure to? Naruto began in his disguised voice, tossing Robin's projectile aside. Then, looking up, he found all 5 Teen Titans staring at him. We've come to stop you, Robin declared as he prepared to attack. Cyborg transformed his hand into a cannon and pointed it at Naruto. Your little killing spree ends here, the robotic teen added. Oh, trust me, I'll stop killing. Naruto began grabbing his bow and arrow. That's after I find and kill the person I'm looking for. Dude, all you're looking at is a prison cell, Beast Boy replied, making Naruto laugh. That's cute, not as cute as the beautiful girl from the neighborhood, but I admire your confidence, Naruto replied, causing Raven to frown slightly. She didn't like being complimented by a criminal. There are 5 of us against you alone, please surrender or we'll hurt you, Starfire warned, her hands and eyes slowly glowing green. Naruto pulled an arrow back and pointed it at the Titans. Then it looks like the odds aren't in your favor. Raven raised her hands, a black aura slowly surrounding them both. Whether you surrender or not, I really don't give a damn. Even if what my team says is true, you won't defeat us, and we'll stop you tonight." Naruto sighed and released his bow. "Let's put that beautiful theory to the test." The blonde replied in a calm manner, as an arrow flew through the air. "Titans go!" Robin shouted, signaling his team to attack. Chapter 3. A small setback. The 5 titans rushed Naruto in their own ways. Beast Boy transformed into a rhinoceros and began attacking the blonde, while Raven and Starfire flew above. Robin fired a grappling line toward a building and began spinning in the blonde's direction, while Cyborg pointed his cannon arm forward and began running. Naruto, not wanting to be overwhelmed by 5 teenage superheroes, decided to turn the odds in his favor by throwing dozens of smoke bombs around himself and the titans. The area instantly filled with smoke, causing the 5 heroes to freeze in place. The 3 children on the ground were completely blinded by the smoke, while all Raven and Starfire could see was a large cloud of smoke. Robin squinted and tried to see his surroundings. He couldn't see much of anything, since it was dark outside, and the smoke only made things worse. However, when Robin felt a strong punch to his kidneys, he flinched and tried to hit his attacker with a roundhouse kick. Robin simply punched the air, causing the smoke to shift slightly. Robin was hit with a hard punch to the stomach, followed by someone grabbing his head and slamming it into his kneecap, causing the boy wonder to stagger back and nearly lose his balance. "Where is it?" Robin shouted, grabbing his collapsible cane and adopting a defensive stance. Cyborg's robotic eye began to glow red. "I'm not going to pick it up with my heat vision!" The teenager cried out in surprise. "Wait, I see something in the..." Cyborg screamed in pain as 3 arrows sank into his body. 2 into his robotic leg, rendering it useless, while the 3rd lodged in his arm. "Cyborg!" Robin cried in worry, trying to locate his friend. "Beast Boy, clear this smoke now!" Beast Boy quickly transformed into a pterodactyl and began flapping his large green wings. He did so in a swift and effective manner. However, when the smoke cleared, the Titans were able to see their fallen comrade, allowing them to see where the arrows had hit his body. "Cyborg!" Starfire screamed in fear, flying toward her friend and inspecting the arrows in his body. Each arrow was lodged in a part of his body that was still human. "You're hurt, and you need help." "I'm fine, Star, that guy's getting away." Cyborg moaned in anguish, pointing at the rooftop in front of them. Robin growled and looked at Naruto, who was looking over his shoulder and towards the Titans with his back to them. "Starfire, stay here with Cyborg. Raven, Beast Boy, you 2 are with me," Robin ordered as he chased after the blonde assassin. Beast Boy nodded and transformed into a jar, then flew behind Naruto at high speed. Raven glanced at her 2 friends before also taking off into the sky. Naruto looked back and saw the remaining Titans closing in on him. Then, to make matters worse, Naruto was running out of rooftops to run to. So, to avoid any further unnecessary conflict, Naruto grabbed his bow and knocked an arrow, which he toyed with for a moment. Turning around, the blonde showed off his impressive archery skills and shot the arrow into the sky toward Raven and Beast Boy. The arrow popped up when it missed its target, flying between Raven and Beast Boy. Although the arrow wasn't meant to make contact, its true purpose was to get the flash bomb into the sky and between the teens. "Beast Boy, watch out!" Raven yelled as she shielded herself, but it was too late. The bomb exploded and blinded the green-skinned hero, causing his transformation to collapse and his body to fall and crash into Robin. The 2 boys tumbled off the rooftop and lost ground on Naruto. Raven hovered over her downed team, but as she watched Naruto slowly disappear, she decided to continue her pursuit. "That's 4 down, which leaves me with the only predicament in this situation," Naruto muttered, staring off into the distance to the edge of the rooftop. "Let's see how good it is." Crow watched in surprise as Naruto dove out of the building, leading to the busy streets below. However, he caught a glimpse of an arrow with a line attached striking a building. Said line allowed Naruto to cross the street and enter another building. "He's crazy," Raven muttered in surprise, slowly following Naruto. Naruto looked over his shoulder and found Raven approaching, so he decided to stop and stand up. "Mom always said girls would chase me, but this is getting a little old." Naruto spoke, grabbed an arrow, and pointed it at Raven. "So why don't you let me go out, beautiful?" Raven floated up to the rooftop and narrowed his eyes. "Don't call me that," he ordered, his hands surrounded by a black aura. "I don't know what you're talking about," Naruto replied in a clammy voice, his hands releasing the bowstring, causing an arrow to fly towards the dark-haired hero. Raven didn't move an inch, but used her powers to suspend the arrow in the air. Whatever, I don't care what you call me. Either way, I'll stop you tonight. Naruto put away his bow and crossed his arms. I didn't do anything, the blonde protested. You've killed people, the hero noted, letting the arrow fall harmlessly to the ground. Collateral damage, Naruto replied nonchalantly. Besides, it's not like they were model citizens. They were scum I cleaned up in the name of my mission. You have your way of seeing things and I have mine, but after what you did to my friends. Raven floated into the air, her eyes beginning to glow. I'm not going to let you get away. Actually, you will, Naruto replied softly, holding up a small vial for Raven to see. The arrows I used on your friend were laced with a very deadly poison. One that, if not treated properly within the next 5 minutes, will kill him. You're lying, Raven replied, not believing what the blonde assassin was saying. Naruto shrugged. I could very well be lying, but ask yourself this. Why would I lie? You're criminally insane, Raven replied without missing a beat. That's what your kind does. I've fought enough villains to know that your kind are prone to lying and deception. Naruto began to laugh, the device he used to mask his voice making his laughter sound deeper and darker than usual. As his laughter grew louder, Naruto held out his hands. That's the beautiful thing, I'm not one of those petty villains you fight. I'm a murderer, I can lie, cheat, and steal. Though when I talk about taking someone's life, I mean it. Naruto then tossed the jar in the air. So you decided, your friends' lives versus my capture. Raven snatched the vial out of the air with her powers and then slowly floated it toward her. Even if you're telling the truth, Cyborg is half machine. Normal poisons wouldn't have the same effect on his enhanced robotic body. That might be true, but half robot or not. Your little friend still has his human organs, and this particular poison is one that corrodes the victim's heart. So I'm guessing he still needs that heart to live, Naruto explained in a cold tone. You have 2 minutes, by the way. Raven squeezed the vial in her hand. I will capture you. Naruto smiled and started walking away. And I'll take you on a lovely date. Raven frowned as she gripped the vial tightly in her hand. She didn't like the mysterious assassin at all. In fact, she could feel his emotions, and what he felt didn't please her. Anger, hatred, and other negative emotions flooded the blonde's mind, but there was something else buried deep inside. An emotion Naruto tried to mask, but Raven could sense it. I can feel your emotions. You have no intention of killing me or my friends, Raven began, floating to the ground. So why are you killing people? Naruto paused for a moment, but didn't turn around. You're not my target, plain and simple, the blonde replied before walking away. I can also feel that you're broken. I can feel it deep down, Raven added, causing Naruto to stop once more. You have so much anger and hatred inside you, but deep down there's an overwhelming sadness. Is that why you kill, to fill that void? I kill because of the injustice done to a child and his family. I kill because a prison doesn't stop monsters. Only death can end a villain's reign. Naruto turned around and clenched his fists. I kill because it's all I know. I'm a murderer and a lost soul. However, that's something I'm perfectly capable of living with. What's your name? Raven asked, her voice a little depressed by what the blonde had said. I won't tell you my name, but I will give you the name my master knows me by, Theolab. Naruto replied with a slightly trembling voice, still excited by his previous answer. Well, Theolab, I don't think you're lost, you're just mistaken. Raven began, surprising Naruto with her sudden sympathy. I hope someday you'll find someone to save you. And I hope they do it before it's too late. It's too late for me now, Naruto replied in a cold voice. Tell your team that if they interfere with my mission again, I won't be merciful. I'll go in for the kill. Raven nodded and turned around, her body shifting into the astral projection of a raven. One that took off into the sky to go help Cyborg. Naruto watched Raven fly away and turned around. Once again, the blonde assassin's night didn't go as planned. Though as Naruto made his way back home, one thought lingered in his mind. Was he really that far gone in his own darkness? Later at Titan's Tower, Robin entered the tower's living room with an angry frown. As he entered the room, Cyborg, who was leaning on Starfire and Beast Boy for support, followed shortly after. According to Naruto, he had indeed poisoned the teenager, which was why he was still recovering. After Cyborg was helped onto the large black couch, Raven entered the room with a slightly downcast expression. For some reason, the half-demon teen kept thinking about the mysterious killer she knew as Theolab. He was a murderer and endangered her friend's life, but somehow she couldn't stop thinking about him. She blamed these thoughts for her inability to stop and capture Naruto, but she knew she was lying to herself. Raven really had no idea why she couldn't get Naruto out of her head, though Raven was quickly brought back from her thoughts and back to reality, as the disgruntled voice of her leader spoke to her. "I can't believe you had him, and just let him walk away!" Robin screamed in rage, pacing across the floor in front of Raven. "What were you thinking?" Raven looked at the boy wonder with an icy stare. "I was thinking I'd save my friend's life, which I managed to do. So he got away. This isn't the first time we've lost the bad guy, and I'm sure it won't be the last. But mark my words, Robin, I'll stop him from killing." Robin didn't seem pleased with Raven's response. Instead, he got right up close to her face and snarled. "Is that the best you have to say? We're heroes and the safety of this city comes before ours," Robin shouted, earning glares from his other teammates. "Just think about Raven, you let a killer walk free. How much longer until he kills again? Sure, he's only killed drug dealers and criminals, but what happens when he kills a young mother or a small child? Those lives would depend on you." "Back off, Robin," Raven warned, her own anger rising slightly. "Friends, please stop fighting," Starfire pleaded as she flew between the two teens. "Raven is right. If I hadn't come to Cyborg's aid, our friend wouldn't be with us right now. So please, let's focus on how we can stop this man, not on fighting each other." "Yeah, Star's right, Robin," Beast Boy agreed as he stood next to his best friend Cyborg. "We're a team, so we have to look out for each other. Just because he got away tonight doesn't mean we won't catch him. In fact, we know most of his tricks now, so next time we can be ready." "That's not it. None of you are understanding the situation," Robin shouted in frustration, slowly walking toward the computer. "This guy is in our city, killing the people we're supposed to be protecting, and he just hit us without any power or help." Cyborg growled and stood up, causing Starfire to gasp. "Cyborg friend, you still need to recover," the alien princess noted with concern in her voice. "I'm fine, Star, but listen, Robin. This guy kicked our ass, that's a fact, we can't sugarcoat it. What we can do is prepare for next time." Cyborg then looked at Raven. "Raven, you went up against him on your own. Did you get any important information?" Raven walked over to a stool and took a seat, stepping away from her team. Raven laced her fingers together and leaned across a table. "I learned a few things from my encounter," she admitted slowly, memories of their previous encounter returning to her. "Starting off, we now know that you're on a mission to find and kill someone in Jump City. My guess is that this person is a criminal, which is why you're hunting and interrogating several criminals. So technically he's a good guy if he leaves innocent people alone," Beast Boy pointed out. "No," Robin interrupted sharply. "He's a criminal and a murderer." "What else did you find out, Raven?" Raven sighed. "He mentioned a few important things. One was that he's an assassin. Another was that he had a master. I'm not sure if his mission was given to him by that master. Though we now know he has a mentor. Could he be working with Slade?" Cyborg asked, causing everyone to look down. "I mean, it's been a few months since the incident. He could have taken on a new apprentice." Beast Boy became distracted, his mind wandering to the precious person he had lost. Robin looked at his friend, realized this, and decided to try and help his friend. "No, this guy doesn't work for Slade. There are a few things that set them apart. Slade is a mercenary, while this unknown guy is an assassin. Another thing is their fighting styles. Everyone remembers when I had to work for Slade. During that time, I learned his fighting style, and again, it's nothing like this assassin." Robin walked over and began typing on his computer. "His uniform, fighting style, I know I've seen it all somewhere before." Starfire flew to Robin. "Have you fought this assassin before?" "I don't know, but I can't shake the feeling I have," Robin replied as she continued typing. "Raven, what else did you find out?" "He gave me a name to call him. He said it wasn't his real name, though this was the name his master gave him," Raven began as her team looked at her. "He said to call him Theolab?" Raven, what did you just say?" Cyborg asked as he struggled to pronounce the name. "Theolab," she answered again. "I have no idea what it means." Found it, Robin said, looking down at his computer. Theolab, the name is Arabic for fox, so we have a killer who's in Jump Cutie to kill someone, and his name is literally Fox. Man, why can't we just have a normal week? Beast Boy groaned as he fell onto his couch. We're heroes, Beast Boy. This is normal for us. Robin pointed out, looking at Raven. Do you have any more important information? Yeah, he said if we interfere with his mission again, he'll kill us. Raven replied, making all the Titans, besides Robin, sweat a little. I see. Robin began as he started typing again. Everyone should get some rest. I'm going to continue investigating this guy. Then, tomorrow we'll start training to face him, Beast Boy saluted. Understood, Captain. The boy joked before leaving the room. Starfire flew up to Robin's side and placed a hand on his shoulder. Don't stay up too late. You need your rest too. Robin nodded and Starfire went to her own room. Cyborg began stretching and walking towards his own room. I'm going to run some system diagnostics. Make sure that monster didn't do too much damage. Cyborg explained as he left the room, leaving Raven and Robin alone. Raven sighed and started to stand up, but Robin's voice stopped her. Wait, Raven, I wanted to apologize. I know you did what you thought was best. I hate the feeling of losing to a criminal. It really eats at me. Robin explained softly. It's okay, Robin. Raven replied, her thoughts returning to Naruto. I can't help but wonder why he's here, what he wants, and what he's doing with Naruto. Naruto wasn't angry, no, his anger was far beyond that. He was absolutely furious, and he was taking his anger out on a training dummy in his secret base of operations. Stupid Teen Titans! Naruto shouted as he began to relentlessly beat the training dummy. He was no longer in his League of Assassins uniform. Instead, he was shirtless in a pair of black hoodies. I was so close to finding Mizuki, Naruto growled as he began to hit the doll harder. Naruto brought his right hand back, then let out a loud scream. The blonde assassin pierced the doll and smashed it into pieces. What the hell am I going to do now? Naruto grumbled, kicking the broken doll aside. With a frustrated sigh, Naruto walked over to a large bulletin board. Tapping a news clipping with his fingers, he began talking to himself. The GCPD ball. Naruto began, playing the news of the terrorist attack. His hands trailed across a red line that was linked to 8 different images. These were the gunmen who attacked the GCPD ball. Each man had a red X on the image, but James King, the man Naruto killed, had another red line leading to the name Mizuki Sato. This is where Naruto's quest for justice ends. This is all I have. Naruto growled in rage, pulling a phone from his pocket. This phone had important information I needed. Though that blunder kid managed to completely screw it up, Naruto slammed the broken phone against a metal table. Then, as he started walking around the room, Naruto started messing with his long blonde locks. Think about yourself, Naruto. There has to be a way to fix this. The blonde began, his mind racing. The good thing about all this is that Mizuki doesn't realize I'm hunting him. The bad thing is that I don't know where he is or what he looks like. Then I can't forget the Teen Titans. They've already proven to be a thorn in my side once. Naruto stopped and placed his hands on the table and placed his phone down. Think about what to do next. The blonde shouted as he closed his eyes and began to think. Naruto grunted and slammed his fist against the table, creating a small dent. After a moment, he stopped and took a few deep breaths. Calm down. RA always said to keep your composure. After all, you don't want to be forced to fix everything you break, that's it. Naruto picked up the phone and began to search through it. If I can find someone to repair this phone, I can get the information I need. The blonde smiled happily as he looked up. Father Mito, I promise I'll find who is responsible for your death. Happy with his new plan, even though it was a minor setback, Naruto walked toward the elevator at his headquarters, his thoughts now turning to the Teen Titans. That's one less problem, but I still have 5 more to solve. The next morning, Naruto ended up sleeping more than usual, instead of his usual 5 during his morning workout routine. The blonde ended up sleeping until 7 and began his training then. Today he trained more vigorously than usual, his determination to find Mizuki allowing him to push himself even harder, though Naruto was also fueled by his desire to grow stronger than the Teen Titans. During their last encounter, he used the element of surprise and his desire to protect each other to his advantage. Though he figured they wouldn't fall for the same trick twice, Naruto would have to be able to beat them 5-on-1. The blonde debated starting to train his powers, but in all honesty, Naruto didn't know how to begin his training. So, for now, he focused on honing his skills. Soon, Naruto found himself inside the elevator leading to his shop. He had a towel wrapped around his neck and was sweating all over. "That was a good workout, but I really need a shower," the blonde noted, stretching his slightly sore muscles. The elevator rumbled, and he entered his makeshift office. As he headed for the stairs, he could hear the faint knocking on his shop door. Without a second thought, the blonde assassin headed for the door. As he opened it, he found himself face to face with someone he never dreamed he'd see. Shaking his head and composing himself, Naruto glanced lightly at Raven, who was standing in front of him, a deep blush on her face as she looked at him. "Can I help you?" Naruto asked in a confused voice, hoping the Titans wouldn't notice who he was. Raven's mind was racing. She'd never seen a man she found so attractive. She was completely enthralled by his deep blue eyes and long golden hair. It also helped that Naruto was shirtless, sweaty, and absolutely ravished. Books," the purple-haired heroine muttered, as she couldn't mutter a proper sentence in Naruto's presence. Naruto acted confused for a moment, but then caught on. He had a bookstore, one he'd completely neglected these past few days. "You wanted to come see my shop?" Naruto finally spoke, causing Raven to nod slowly. "Well, in that case, please come in." Naruto cursed his luck when he allowed Raven in. Of all the people in Jump City, why did she have to visit his shop? Truly, some force in the world was against him. Although when Raven entered the blonde's shop, she was a little impressed. Besides the fact that the store was completely empty of customers, it was also packed to the brim with books. "So help yourself." Naruto laughed nervously as he held out his hands. Raven stared at Naruto for a second, her eyes glued to his body. This made the blonde feel a little uncomfortable. Are you okay?" Naruto asked as he crossed his arms. Raven shook herself out of her daze and composed herself. "Sorry, I got distracted," the hero admitted, casually walking toward a bookstall. Then, as she opened a random book, she glanced over and saw Naruto walking behind the counter. Naruto clenched his fists and looked down, replaying the past few days in his head. Wondering if there was any chance, he slipped up and allowed the Titans to discover who he was. "Damn it, Naruto, think! There's no way she knows who you are. If so, she wouldn't come here alone, right? No, you're too good to slip up and get caught so quickly," Naruto thought to himself as he looked at Raven. "But if that's the case, why does she keep looking at me?" Raven noticed Naruto looking at her, so she quickly buried her head in the book she had picked up. "Okay, she's definitely looking at me, but why?" Naruto thought as he looked down and caught his own reflection. Finally noticing what was catching the young woman's attention. "I forgot I'm not wearing a shirt." Grinning to himself, Naruto decided to get a little mischievous. So with a spring in his step, the blonde assassin approached Raven. "Excuse me, it looks like you need help," Naruto spoke, leaning against the bookshelf Raven was standing next to. Raven flicked her eyes over the blonde and bit her lip. She was normally calm and collected, but the nameless bookstore owner was getting the better of her. "I'm fine," Raven stammered with a deep blush, forcing her to hide her face with the book in her hand. "I like your store. Is that all you like?" Naruto asked with a small smile, causing Raven's face to delve deeper into the book. There was a moment of silence between the two, though after a moment Raven looked up. "For now," the teen replied in a blank voice. "Busy spot you have here. Sorry I couldn't get your name." Raven stopped and waited for Naruto to give his name. "It's polite to give your name before asking others, but I don't think there's a person in Jump City who doesn't know you, Raven," Naruto replied in a calm, casual tone. "Though my name is Naruto Quinn." Raven nodded and continued reading, doing her best to avoid looking at the attractive blonde. Naruto easily noticed this and began to chuckle inwardly. "So tell me, what brings one of the famous teen titans to my shop? As you can see, I'm usually booming with business, so I'm guessing you've certainly heard of my shop somewhere," Naruto began, being very sarcastic about the last part. Raven sighed and closed the book in her hands. "If we're going to do this, could you at least put on a shirt?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, I'll be right back." As Naruto walked away, though, he turned around and winked at Raven. "Don't go stealing anything while I'm looking pretty." Raven's face turned bright red at the blonde's comment. She didn't know why, but the way he spoke to her felt familiar. Even stranger though, was that she enjoyed the way he spoke to her. It was almost comforting to have someone leave her speechless. It was almost as if he didn't care that she was Raven from the Teen Titans. He treated her like just another girl wondering about his shop. Raven was so caught up in the way Naruto looked and the way he treated her. She was completely blinded by the signs that gave away who he really was. So, Naruto's voice began, catching Raven's attention. As he walked clearly toward the main part of the store, a new, skin-tight black t-shirt hugged his torso. "What brings you to my store?" Raven looked at the blonde with a confused look. "I like books, and this is a bookstore," she replied, her voice a little more confident. "It's pretty obvious why I'm here." Naruto nodded and sat down on a small wooden stool. "Actually, I've only been in business for a few days, and you're my first client," the blonde explained with a smile. "It's strange that your first client is a famous hero." "I see. You're from around here? You're pretty young to be running a bookstore," Raven noted as she walked over and sat down. Naruto waved his hand around. "I grew up in some kind of small orphanage. It housed people from all over, so when I finally left, I wanted to get out and see the world," the blonde explained, twisting his words to speak both the truth and a lie. "As for the being young part, you're right. Even though I had some money saved up, I figured why not buy a bookstore?" Raven didn't act very impressed, and if she was, she didn't show it. "Sounds interesting though. If you wanted to see the world, why go down and buy a bookstore in Jump City?" Naruto bowed with a smile. "Well, besides the booming business opportunity, I heard there are a lot of beautiful girls in Jump City." Raven blushed and looked at the ground. "I see," she murmured softly. Naruto laughed and stepped away from Raven. "So Raven, I have a question." Naruto began to get her full attention. "And that's it?" Raven replied, not wanting to be left hanging. Naruto started laughing nervously and rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, when I was moving into my new apartment, I dropped my phone and completely broke it. So I was wondering if you knew where the repair shops were. I had a lot of important information on it that I don't want to lose." "Yes, there's one 4 blocks from your store," Raven replied, a little put off by the subject of her question. Naruto smiled and nodded. "Thank you so much, Raven." The blonde thanked her, happy that she could now fix the phone her teammate destroyed. "No problem, but I answered your question. So why don't you do me the favor too?" Raven replied, her voice calm and serene. "Ask." Naruto spoke happily. "Why were you shirtless earlier?" he asked, a slight blush appearing on his face. Naruto made an O shape with his mouth and started laughing. "Sorry, I live above the store and every morning I work out to stay in shape. I don't usually have customers, so when I opened the door I didn't even think about what I was doing." "I see, so maybe next time I come by you'll wear a shirt," Raven replied with a smile, trying to outdo the blonde. Naruto leaned in and winked at Raven. "No promises, after all, you looked at my body more than my books," the blonde assassin replied in a low voice. Raven felt her heartbeat quicken as Naruto slowly approached. The sudden beep of her communicator made her stand up and pull out the device. "Crow trouble in the downtown district." "We're there now!" Robin's voice shouted through the communicator. Raven looked a little depressed as she looked at Naruto. "Sorry, duty calls. I'll stop by again another day. I like talking to you," Raven admitted with a small smile, turning around and walking toward the exit. Naruto smiled widely, and for a second he forgot all about who he and Raven were. At the moment, they were just 2 teenagers. "Okay, I'll see you around, beautiful." When the door to his shop closed, Naruto's face changed completely. He went from a flirtatious teenager to a serious assassin in one fell swoop. "Time for a shower, then I'll fix that stupid phone," Naruto muttered, as he walked over and closed the door to his tent. A few hours later, Naruto was casually strolling through the busy streets of Jump City. He was dressed in simple jeans and a large black hoodie, which he had pulled up to hide his face a bit. He had his hands tucked into the pockets of his hoodie, fiddling with the broken phone in his hands. As he passed by the dozens of citizens going about their daily lives, he wasn't aware of the 2 people following his movements. Soon, a man accelerated and approached behind Naruto. Being an assassin, Naruto felt as if he were being followed. Though he glanced at the reflection in a window he passed by, he judged his followers to pose no threat. He quickly found a sharp object on his back and smiled. "Take a small detour to that alley on your right," a low voice ordered, slowly plunging his knife into Naruto's back. Naruto had to stifle a laugh. "It's okay, don't hurt me," he whispered, doing his best to feign helplessness. The man led Naruto toward the ally, and as the two were out of sight, the man shoved Naruto forward, causing the blonde to stumble forward and nearly fall. Though this was just a facade Naruto played to appear weak. "All right, kid. Wallet, jewelry, and anything else valuable. Give it to me, or this is going to get ugly," the assailant ordered, as the second man approached him. Seeing the two men trying to rob him, Naruto couldn't hold back his laughter any longer. "Wow, you two might be the stupidest and unluckiest guys in all of Jump City," Naruto declared as he began to rock back and forth in laughter. "I mean, there are hundreds of people walking past you, and you decide to steal from me." Naruto clasped his hands and pointed at the two assailants. "All right, listen, this is your only chance. Back off now, and we can put all this behind us." The two men looked at each other, and then nodded. They both charged at Naruto with knives in hand. Naruto shook his head. "I can't say I didn't warn you," the blonde muttered as he rolled around one of the muggers. Then, with one swift motion, he broke the man's arm and plunged the knife into his throat. The second man stared at his companion, his eyes wide open. Then, before he could even mutter a suitable prayer, a blonde man grabbed the man by the arm and forced the knife into his own neck. "So easy it was boring," Naruto muttered as he walked over to the two dead men. "At least I killed them without leaving my fingerprints on their weapons." Naruto left the alley and walked toward the streets. As he did so, he blended perfectly into the passing of the citizens. He returned to his task and acted as if nothing had happened. Finally, Naruto headed to the repair shop Raven had told him about. He looked at the name of the shop and smiled. "Repairs for Idiots, nice name," Naruto muttered as he approached the door. As he opened the door, a ding sounded, indicating a customer had entered the store. Naruto looked around and noticed dozens of electronic devices scattered throughout the store. He also noted that the store wasn't very busy. In fact, there was only one other person inside the room. A teenage boy about Naruto's age. He was dressed in the shop uniform and seemed quite unhappy with his job. His long black hair was tied back in a ponytail. It resembled the tip of a pineapple. "Welcome to Idiot Repairs. We fix things because you're an idiot," the male greeted half-heartedly. "I'm Shikamaru, how may I help you?" Naruto approached the counter with a small smile. "Good motto," the blonde began as he placed the broken phone on the counter. "Name Naruto Quinn, and I need you to fix something for me." "Oh, that's surprising. Look, I thought you'd come to an electronics repair shop for a cup of coffee," Shikamaru responded sarcastically, holding up his cell phone. "Wow, that's a load off my shoulders. Funny," Naruto muttered as he crossed his arms. "A friend told me you could fix that phone for me. I have a lot of important data I don't want to lose." Shikamaru picked up the phone and started looking at it. He quickly ran his fingers over the entry point where Robin's projectiles had done the most damage. "What, did the phone owe you money or something?" the lazy teen asked, looking at Naruto. "Because it looks like you stabbed it." Naruto rubbed his head and laughed nervously. "You see, I got drunk and woke up with a knife stuck in my phone." The blonde lied, hoping the black-haired repairman would believe it. "Not too young to drink, I guess that's what's wrong with your idiot," Shikamaru replied with a small yawn. "Not very friendly service," Naruto noted with a small smile, even though he didn't really care. He just wanted the phone fixed. "Yeah, well, I couldn't care less about this stupid job," Shikamaru replied as he put the phone down. "But let's get to the point, I can't fix the phone. You managed to completely ruin most of it. Though you're in luck, since the internal memory card isn't damaged. So give me a few days and I'll swap the card for a replacement phone. That way, you can at least recover your data." Naruto nodded and pulled out his wallet. "How much do I owe you, and when will you be done?" Shikamaru sighed and began stretching. "Well, it's a lot of extra work for me, so work and everything I'm saying about it. Would this cover it?" Naruto asked as he placed $500 on the table without flinching. Shikamaru was surprised. "More than enough," Naruto smiled. "Fine, then keep the change. It'll motivate him to work harder. I need the information on my phone as quickly as possible." Shikamaru took the cash and nodded. "Come back this time tomorrow, I should have everything ready for you." "Fine," Naruto replied as he turned around and started to leave. Shikamaru watched the blonde leave the store, but before Naruto left, the lazy teen noticed blood on the back of Naruto's hoodie. He didn't seem hurt, and he'd paid $500 like it was nickels. There's something off about this guy, Shikamaru muttered as he looked at the phone on the counter. And I bet this phone will help me figure it out. In Naruto's apartment, Naruto walked slowly into his living room and picked up his TV remote. Then, as he plopped down on the couch, he turned on the device. Let's see if there's anything good, Naruto muttered as he switched the television to the local news network. Suppressing a small smile, Naruto read the headlines on the television. They read, 2 men found dead in back alley. I wonder if they have anything that will prevent me from dying. Naruto spoke to himself as he turned up the volume. So far, there are no suspects or leads in the murders of these 2 men. Naruto smiled as he listened to the news anchor speak. However, many speculate that it was caused by Jump City's newest killer, who has been killing criminals at the docks. Naruto leaned back and placed his hands on his head. They wouldn't be wrong. The police chief said the men killed tonight were convicted criminals. Therefore, it would be appropriate for the Black Hood's modus operandi to kill these men. Since he's only killed criminals so far, the Black Hood? That's the stupidest, most cliché thing I've ever heard. Naruto growled in frustration. Police are urging anyone with information related to these murders to come forward. And if you see or hear anything about the Black Hood, police are asking you to forward any and all information to them. They feel he poses a significant threat to this city. Naruto snorted. Stupid police, you ignore the fact that I'm making this city safer. Killing evil men is better than locking them up. After all, how many times has Uncle Bruce had to lock up his enemies, only for them to escape and cause more damage? Naruto turned off the television and stood up. Regardless, I have to be more careful from now on. I'm no longer a nameless assassin who kills for his mission. Now I have the police and the Teen Titans after me, while I'm also in the public eye. Naruto walked over to his window and looked out. Sighing to himself, he gazed up at the bright full moon. Then, as he let his eyes wander for a moment, he looked up at Titan's tower. His mind went to Raven and their conversation, which he enjoyed, and part of him wanted to continue spending time with the girl. Although he knew it, the closer they were to each other, the greater the risk of Raven finding out who he really was. However, Naruto was pulled from his thoughts about Raven when he noticed a figure on a rooftop in front of him. Said person was dressed in black, making him difficult to spot, but Naruto was a highly trained assassin. Therefore, spotting someone in the dark would be easy for him, especially if the person wasn't very well hidden. Which the person watching him wasn't, so Naruto wondered who was watching him and why. He's not very good at hiding, Naruto mused, smiling and waving at the person looking at him. The person stiffened before turning around and running away. Needless to say, Naruto had only one thought in his head. Someone's watching me, so that must mean they suspect who I really am. Naruto spoke to himself as he turned away from the window. Just when I thought things couldn't get any better. I have another problem to add to my growing list. Chapter 4. Problems. Naruto was having a good morning. He managed to sleep like a baby through the night, and his morning workout left him feeling more rejuvenated than ever. Even as he sat on his couch eating his breakfast, the cereal seemed to taste better than usual. Honestly, Naruto didn't know why, but he felt like today was going to be a special day for him. In his mind, he could picture everything now. He'd keep his shop open for a few hours and not get any customers. Then he'd go to Repairs of Idiots and retrieve the phone he left with Shikamaru, which would ultimately lead the blonde assassin to Mizuki, finally putting Naruto on the right path to avenge his family and find those responsible for the incident. Today is finally going my way, Naruto announced to himself, a big smile on his face. The blonde then leaned over his coffee table and put down his cereal for a moment. Then, reaching out, Naruto grabbed the TV remote. Though the remote was within his reach, the cell phone next to Naruto blasted the loudest death metal music Naruto had ever heard. Startled by the sudden noise, Naruto freaked out and kicked the table, causing his cereal to spill onto the floor. Shit! Naruto cursed as he jumped up and stubbed his toe, making him wince and jump up and down. Damn! Naruto looked down and noticed the phone on his coffee table. The ringtone was still ringing loud and clear. On the phone screen, a picture of his mother giving a peace sign and winking could be seen. And so ends my perfect day, Naruto sighed, leaning over and picking up the phone. Then, with an even longer sigh, he slumped and answered the phone. Hi, Mom. Put in! Harley shouted happily through the phone, though Naruto could hear her snort through the speaker. Why haven't you called me yet? Naruto rolled his eyes and walked into his kitchen to retrieve some paper towels. I've been a little busy these past few days, Naruto replied, walking back to his coffee table with towels in hand to clean up his mess. That's no excuse. Harley scolded him through the phone, making Naruto roll his eyes. Now apologize to your mother, Naruto sighed as he began to fluff up the spilled milk. Sorry, Mom, that's much better. Now tell me, how are things going in Jump City? Do you know any cute girls? Harley asked, her voice hiding a small laugh. Well, besides killing a small number of thugs and getting into a fight with the Teen Titans, things have been pretty boring, Naruto replied, throwing away the towels and placing his bowl in the sink. Though I think I have a solid lead on someone connected to Dad and Mito's deaths. That's good news, Pudding! Harley quickly shouted with joy. But I have a reason for calling you. Naruto walked over to his couch and sat down. And that would be the reason? I need you to kill someone, her mother's voice demanded without missing a beat. Naruto grabbed his phone as he heard his mother's voice. It wasn't his sweet, loving mother's voice. No, it was the voice of Gotham's Queen of Crime. Honestly, Naruto was shocked and speechless. He knew how drastically these past 11 years had affected him, but now he could hear how his mother had changed. Puddin', are you still there? Yes, I am. Naruto spoke flatly, as he was suddenly brought back to reality. Who? He took a sharp gulp. Who do you need me to kill? Just a D-bag. Here, I'll send you a picture of it to your phone, Harley replied. Naruto felt his phone vibrate, then moved it to his eyes. The assassin looked at the screen and saw a picture of a middle-aged man. That's great and all, Mom, but I need more information than this. You know the name, the location, and exactly why you want him dead, Harley sighed through the phone. His name is Garfield Sharp, a trashy CEO from Gotham. He's currently opening a new branch of his company in Jump City, so during the opening ceremony today, I want you to kill him. Naruto stood up and began pacing around his apartment. Today? Mom, you have to give me more time to prepare than that. I have no knowledge of this guy, and I can't just walk up during a ceremony and kill him, but that's what I want you to do, Puddin'. It shouldn't be hard for you to pull off some ninja moves and kill that bastard anyway. After all, you got me out of Arkham with ease, Harley pointed out, making Naruto groan. That's different, Mom. I planned for every scenario when I killed James King and escaped you. You're asking me to prepare, walk up to some random guy, and put an arrow in his chest, and what's the problem with that? Harley asked in a confused voice. Of all my contacts, I know my son is the best choice for this job. Naruto began massaging his face in frustration. Mom, tell me why you want this guy dead. There was a long pause between the two, but after a moment, Harley took a long breath and collected her thoughts. This guy is planning a merger with Lex Corporation, which, if successful, will ruin our company. It will ruin your father's legacy, Harley explained in a sad voice. Is Mom doing so badly with the company? I remember Dad never caring about other companies, Naruto noted, as he looked out the window. Yes, we are. Look, when your father died, it had negative effects on the company. Investors lost interest, and your father wasn't there to lead. Then, with my criminal involvement, it put the company in another bad light. I'm afraid even stopping this merger would only delay the inevitable, Harley explained as she began to sob. I don't know what to do, Naruto. Naruto gripped the phone tightly as he listened to his mother's tears. It hurt his heart to hear her cry. Mom, I promise you two things. First, I'll kill that man for you. There was a pause as Naruto thought about his second promise. And what else? Harley asked weakly. Naruto Namikaze will return and protect his father's legacy. Although now is not the right time, Naruto Quinn still has work to finish. Oh, Puddin', thanks, but I think you should keep Quinn. She suits you, Harley pointed out, as she began to wipe away tears. But we can talk about that later. For now, I have a plan to explain. A plan? Naruto muttered in confusion. Yeah, it's a little idea I have. One I think will solve all our problems. After all, your mom is a smart cookie, Naruto smiled. Yes it is, I'm all ears, Mom. With Crow, Raven walked slowly through the streets of Jump City, her body aching slightly. She had just finished a grueling morning training session with her team. Apparently, when Robin said they would prepare to handle Naruto's new threat, she wasn't joking. Now, thanks to the new rigorous training, which Robin announced would be daily until Naruto was brought to justice, Raven wasn't in the most pleasant mood. In fact, she wasn't able to have her morning tea or meditate. Needless to say, Raven needed some personal time to calm down and collect her emotions, so that's why she was currently heading to her new favorite bookstore. Raven didn't know why she decided to make the trip to Naruto's shop. She loved books, but she had a lot of reading to do back in the tower. So, honestly, Raven wondered why she even made the decision to go to Naruto's shop. Regardless of her reasons, she couldn't help but smile at the sight of the blonde's shop. As Raven approached a few meters from the shop, she looked at the name, making a mental note to ask Naruto what his shop's name meant. Though when Raven knocked on the front door, she sighed deeply. "Please have a t-shirt this time," the teenage superhero whispered softly, finally working up the courage to open the door and walk in. Once Raven entered the bookstore, she was instantly struck by the scent of books, both old and new. She also noticed that the store was completely empty again. Is anyone here?" Raven spoke up, wondering where the blonde currently was. For a while there was silence, but finally Raven heard footsteps. "Crow?" Naruto's voice called out in confusion. "What are you doing here?" Raven smiled as she watched Naruto leave her office. "I told you I'd come back another day, but I didn't say when." Naruto nodded and approached the teenager. "That's true, but I didn't expect to see you back so soon. I figured you'd be busy with your team." "I was, but I needed a break from being a hero for a while. Robin is driving me crazy with all his team training." Raven began as she walked over to a wooden stool and sat down. "Stupid Theolab, Black Hood, or whatever his name is. Excuse me?" Naruto replied, trying to be as innocent as possible. "What are you talking about, Raven?" "Sorry, the news guy. You know, the one who killed all the drug dealers and other criminals. Well, the media started calling him the Black Hood, but his name is Theolab, which is Arabic for fox," Raven explained as she began to moan. "My leader, Robin, has shifted our entire focus to training to defeat and stop Theolab." Naruto crossed his arms, smiling to himself, as this conversation might be helpful to him. "You know, now that you mention it, I remember hearing a news report about this, whatever you call it, Theolab." Raven spoke the name, though she didn't need to. After all, Naruto was Theolab, and he spoke several languages quite fluently. "So how does your team plan to take him on? From what the news says, this guy is quite dangerous," Naruto pointed out, hoping Raven would slip up and give away more information than she should. "Well, we haven't done much, just teamwork exercises and physical training. Robin also insisted on going over some possible battle scenarios, but the rest of the team was exhausted. So we all took a break for a while, so here I am," Raven explained, holding her arms out. "I see, but I'm curious. If this guy is only killing criminals, why try to take him down?" Naruto asked, causing Raven to narrow her gaze. "Because killing is wrong," she answered without thinking, believing the answer should be obvious. "Yes, but look at this from a different perspective," Naruto began as his tone changed and he looked into the distance. "Soldiers kill in times of war, but we don't judge them, nor should we. They are tasked with the impossible, whether it be for their own protection or the protection of others. In a sense, we see them as taking care of the bad guys, though to the opposing side, the soldiers are the villains." Raven crossed her arms. "There's a difference between war and killing thugs in the street, but is there really a difference?" Naruto interrupted as he looked into Raven's eyes. "War is caused by greedy individuals who want more wealth and power, whereas criminals commit crimes for more money and power. So what's the difference in this Theolab killing bad guys, when in reality, he's a soldier waging war on crime? As I said, killing is wrong," Raven retorted, sticking to her previous argument. "Crime can be solved without killing. That's why the Justice League and my team were founded," Naruto smirked. "Ah, yeah, you defeat the bad guys and save the day." The blonde then frowned, his voice holding some venom. "Then the criminals get loose and hurt, wound, and completely destroy the lives of people who can't protect themselves. But don't worry, the heroes always put them back together. After all, the cycle has to continue, because killing monsters isn't the right thing to do." "What's your problem?" Raven asked, standing up and looking at the blonde. "If it weren't for the heroes, countless lives would be lost." Naruto stood his ground and towered over Raven. My problem, Raven, is that a boy lost his father, his sister, and his mother because those convicted of murder escaped prison. My problem is that those men could have been sacrificed and I would still have a family. That's why when I see a man killing criminals I don't flinch. Because I think of another little boy's family he could have saved from becoming like mine. Raven took a step back, shocked by the teenager's words. Raven remembered her mentioning life in an orphanage, but she never would have imagined the circumstances. I'm sorry, I didn't know that, she replied in an honest tone. I can understand why you feel that way, but you have to understand. I have my own difficulties, and I still believe my sense of justice is correct. Naruto sighed and took a seat. Don't apologize. You couldn't have known my family was murdered, or that I sat there and watched the people I loved died before my eyes. Although I regret losing my temper, when I think about them, it brings back memories of the night I lost so much. Raven smiled and placed a hand on Naruto's chest. It brings out anger in you, but that's a facade to hide your sadness. I can feel those emotions inside you, Raven explained, slowly approaching the seated blonde. If you want, we can talk about those emotions. Naruto smiled and grabbed Raven's hand, then, as he slowly moved away from her touch, stood up. It's sweet of you to offer, but I've spent years trying to forget that night and move on. The blonde lied through his teeth. I'd rather move on to the future. Raven put her hand to her chest and looked down. Oh, I see. Listen, Raven, Naruto began, moving to her side and placing an arm around her shoulder. Let's forget this talk if you really want to help me. Having someone to talk to is very helpful. Raven blushed and steepled her fingers. Well, maybe I can be useful sometime this weekend, maybe over tea. We could talk, get to know each other better. I'd like to have a normal friend in my life. Sure, it's a date, the blonde replied with a wink. Show up at my shop this Saturday at this time. Raven looked away. It's not a date, just spending time with a friend. Call it what you want, Raven. Either way, I'm looking forward to our time together. And maybe next time we can have a more pleasant conversation. Naruto noted, a small laugh escaping his lips. Raven wasn't one to show much emotion, but she couldn't help but smile at the blonde's infectious grin. Slowly but surely, Naruto was having an effect on Raven. Though what none of the teens knew was that Raven was slowly affecting Naruto as well, the question remained. Would these changes be for the better? Or something much darker? A few hours later, with Naruto. Naruto was currently in his league uniform, and his Theolab persona was on the hunt. The prey was, of course, the man his mother gave him the contract to kill. The kill itself should be relatively easy, as there was no protection of any kind in the area. However, there was still one complication for Naruto. That was the fact that the opening ceremony was being covered by dozens of news stations, and hundreds of people were on hand to witness the dedication of the new building. So, as Naruto looked around the crowd for his perspective, he couldn't help but sigh in frustration. On the bright side, Naruto would be helping his mother and her company. On the downside, though, Naruto would definitely be placed on camera to be killed, further placing him in the unwanted spotlight of others. I can't believe I agreed to do this, Naruto groaned as he slowly scanned the crowd through a pair of binoculars. So far, there was no sign of his target, but that was to be expected, considering the event didn't officially begin for another 15 minutes. So, for now, Naruto decided to wait and prepare to eliminate his target. The blonde considered sneaking away to find his target and kill him before taking the stage. However, his mother was very clear about how she wanted him killed. She wanted his death to be a public display, showing what would happen with any future competition. Naruto was never one for public assassination contracts, but for his mother, he'd do anything. So, as he put away his binoculars, Naruto grabbed his bow and began inspecting his weapon. Most mothers give their teenage sons normal jobs, like mowing the lawn or picking up milk at the store. Naruto groaned as he pretended to pull back his bow. But not my mom, no, she wants me to kill someone. Family always complicates things. A voice spoke from behind Naruto. Acting on instinct, Naruto grabbed an arrow and quickly turned around, firing a shot at the person behind him without wasting a second. Although as the arrow flew through the air, the unknown individual struck the projectile with a sigh, causing the arrow to land harmlessly on the ground. Wait, what are you doing here? Naruto said in confusion, relaxing his bow. Did Raz send you? Standing in front of Naruto was a young woman with a slim but fit build. The woman had long black hair and wore a mask to hide her face. The mask itself was white and resembled a cat's head with red stripes and a wide grin. She wore a dark green kimono that was tied around her waist, where its length reached just above her knees. Finally, she had a pair of knee-high black boots. Yes and no, the woman confided in a casual voice. Naruto placed his bow on his back and crossed his arms. So why are you here, Cheshire? The blonde asked, as she watched Cheshire remove her mask, revealing her olive-colored skin and green eyes to the blonde. RA sent me on a mission to some cities. I thought I'd come back here and say hello. Cheshire explained in a matter-of-fact tone. After all, with you gone, the league has been pretty boring. I've been thinking about skipping it and going solo for a while. You know Roz would have your head if you did, Naruto pointed out, knowing his master's rules about never leaving the league. Cheshire dismissed the blonde's warning and smiled. Please, after how upset he is with you, I think I could disappear and he wouldn't even flinch. Naruto slumped and sighed. I take it you've been following all the news about my recent deeds? Oh yeah? Cheshire replied with a laugh. I think he's pretty disappointed you left so much evidence behind during your nights out. Well, if he knew what else I'd been doing, he'd probably try to get me killed. Naruto began as he began to think that maybe he should just shut up. Oh, tell me. The black-haired assassin practically begged. It can't be that bad. You'd be surprised. Naruto muttered as he looked away. What? It can't be like you're going on a date with one of those Teen Titan girls. Cheshire joked, but when she saw Naruto start rocking back and forth and whistling, she burst out laughing. Buck, what are you doing? Naruto turned around and looked at Cheshire. Lucky he had his face hidden. Currently, the blonde was sporting a deep blush of embarrassment. Okay, for starters, it's not a date, Naruto began, making Cheshire grab her stomach as she laughed. I mean it. We're going to spend some time together at a tea shop. Wow, just listen to yourself, you're in denial. Knowing you, you probably talk a big game in front of this girl, but look at you now. Cheshire laughed, before reaching up to wipe the tears from her eyes. Which is it? And how did this happen? Naruto crossed his arms and started pouting. I'm not going to tell you anything else, the blonde protested. Oh, come on. Cheshire began as he punched Naruto in the arm. You're the closest thing I have to a little brother, so I have to tease you with girls. Also, I have to make sure this girl is enough for you. Naruto rolled his eyes under his hood. Okay, let's get one thing straight. This isn't a date. Yeah, sure, whatever, just give me some details. Cheshire responded quickly. Naruto slumped in defeat. It's Raven, the blonde revealed. During the day, I have my secret identity of Naruto Quinn, and she's taken a liking to me. I really don't know what to do. If I let her get close, she might find out who I am. Cheshire shrugged. Honestly, this could work in your favor, that is if you play your cards right. I mean, you could gain their trust and completely destroy the Titans from within. I have no interest in the Titans, I'm only interested in finding justice for my family. Naruto spoke with conviction behind his words. So why bother with this Raven girl? Cheshire began as he started to walk away. Either you like her or you're an idiot. Who knows, maybe it's a combination of both. Though let me leave you with a bit of sisterly advice, do what your heart believes is right. And don't let who you are get in the way of that. Naruto watched as Cheshire put on his mask and jumped off the roof they were on. Did he just give me good advice? The blonde muttered in shock. Shaking his head, Naruto turned around and grabbed his bow. Whatever, I need to shoot something now. The blonde groaned, grabbed an arrow, and took aim. Naruto took a deep breath and released the string of his bow, which was followed moments later by loud screams and cries of panic. Then, as many of the spectators looked in Naruto's direction, the blonde placed his bow above his head and walked away. Contract complete! The blonde muttered to himself, as he pulled out a phone and began dialing his mother's number. An hour later, Naruto's headquarters. Naruto toyed with an arrow in his hand as he rocked forward in a chair. His eyes fell on a live news broadcast covering the murder he recently committed. As he imagined, people were able to relate his character to the murder. Since it was broad daylight and the entire event was being recorded, a cameraman was able to spot him before he left the scene. So far, everyone was in an uproar over Naruto's actions. Naruto soon grew tired of watching the current channel. So he changed the channel and found another program talking about him. This program featured a male news anchor shouting angrily at the camera. Naruto recognized this as the Gordon Godfrey show. Listen up, it's time you woke up, Jump City. This Black Hood, as everyone calls him, is nothing more than a bloodthirsty monster. Gordon shouted at the camera, causing Naruto to slightly bend the arrow in his hand. It hasn't even been a week since he showed up in your city, and look at the bodies he's already dropped. I'll say it one more time to make it sink in, a blood-thirsty monster. Naruto snapped the arrow in half, then looked at his watch. He noticed that in an hour, he had to meet with Shikamaru. To pick up the phone, he wanted it fixed. And what have your heroes, the Teen Titans, been doing about this threat? Well, don't worry, Gordon has that covered for you. Just watch this and see how awesome your heroes are. Naruto watched as a clip began to play next to Gordon's body. It was a recording of his encounter with the Teen Titans. What the hell? Naruto shouted as he stood up. I checked everywhere. There were no cameras recording me. Look at these people. Gordon began as he began pointing out the fight. These heroes don't stand a chance against this man. I think it's time for the Justice League to stop letting rejects and sidekicks do their work and start helping people. Naruto clenched his fists. Whose side is this idiot on? The blonde muttered in confusion. First he hits me, then the Titans, and now he's calling for the Justice League. Or maybe it's time for these masked monsters to give up. After all, how many people do they really help? Think about that! Godfrey shouted, causing Naruto to growl and change the channel. This time he landed on another channel, whose news anchor was halfway through her story. Of course, the topic was the murder of Garfield Sharp, which made Naruto groan. Is there really nothing more important than covering the news? The blonde grumbled before deciding to listen. So even after Mr. Sharp's death, his legacy will live on. Thanks to Lex Luthor, who is now taking over Sharp Industries, adding the $1 million company to his already thriving business. The news reporter began in a cheerful voice. This isn't right. The blonde muttered, his fist clenched in the chair he was sitting in. I should have seen this coming. Why didn't Mom see this coming? Actually, we spoke with Mr. Luthor a while back. And this is what he had to say about the events that have transpired. The news anchor began, just as the television cut to Lex Luthor's face talking to a camera. It's always sad to see a friend leave this world under such tragic circumstances. It was by prior arrangement, though, as neither Mr. Sharp nor I have any next of kin. We had an agreement regarding our unforeseen deaths, so we had papers signed to cede control of our companies to us. So now I'd like to publicly welcome Sharp Industries to the LexCorp family. Naruto turned off the TV, his blood boiling, and he couldn't hold it in much longer. It seemed like no matter what he did, nothing turned out the way he wanted. Something always had to go wrong, and the blonde was starting to get tired of it. This cell phone better give me what I want. Naruto spoke to himself as he started walking toward the elevator. Or things are going to get ugly. Repairs for idiots. Shikamaru was a simple person, who enjoyed nothing more than relaxing and not worrying about anything. Though for the past week, the black-haired teen had done nothing but worry. Currently, Shikamaru was at the store where he worked, pacing back and forth, wondering what he should do next. As he walked, Shikamaru sighed and ran a hand through his hair, showing how worried the normally calm individual was. What am I going to do? The boy muttered desperately, placing his hands on a counter and looking down. I don't have much time left. Shikamaru looked down at his shadow, which began to move, proving that something wasn't right with the teenager. My pawns are gone, my king is checked, and I only have one move left. And it's stupid. Shikamaru approached the cash register and looked at it. He showed off a small amount of cash inside. I'm still missing $4,000, and tonight's my deadline. Shikamaru slammed the register shut and then leaned against the counter. I could always steal the rest. Shikamaru then looked toward a wall, where a painting hung. The picture showed a tall man with black hair swept back like Shikamaru's. The man had 2 large scars on one side of his face and a large black goatee on his chin. The man was holding a smiling Shikamaru over his shoulders, as they both smiled at the camera. In the picture, the words Shikamaru's 4th birthday were written in black ink. This was a photo of Shikamaru and his father Shikaku. No, you'd be ashamed of me if I did, but what am I supposed to do? Shikamaru asked the photo, waiting silently, but of course he got no answer. Finally, Shikamaru clenched his fists and looked down. If you were still alive, you'd know what to do. You always knew what to do. Shikamaru suddenly stood up, just as the shop door opened, revealing Naruto, who was dressed in his civilian clothes. When the blonde entered the shop, he gave Shikamaru a friendly wave and a smile. I hope you fixed my phone. Naruto began as he stopped at the counter. Shikamaru stared at Naruto for a minute, then after a few seconds, the black-haired repairman walked away to retrieve a phone from behind him. Yeah, I fixed it. I also found some interesting things when I turned it on. Naruto tensed. Why would you do that? Shikamaru shrugged and placed the phone on the counter. I needed to check if it was working properly. Imagine my surprise when I discovered this wasn't your phone. Everything from contacts, photos, and other personal information. It all belongs to someone else. Naruto looked at the phone and then at Shikamaru, who was carefully analyzing the blonde. It was a used phone, so it still has things from the previous owner. Naruto lied quickly, taking the phone. Shikamaru grabbed the phone before Naruto could touch it. Then, holding the phone high in the air, Shikamaru smiled. Look, that's what I assumed at first, but some things about you threw me off. Like you paid a large sum of cash like it was nothing. So why would you have a used cell phone, when you could afford a brand new one easily? Then there was the blood on your jacket yesterday. If you compare the time of your arrival and the path you took here, it would link you to yesterday's murders. How would you know which way I went here, unless it was you watching me the other night? Naruto yelled in surprise, as he discreetly reached for a knife in his pocket. Shikamaru nodded. Yeah, I followed my instincts and I was right. You're him, aren't you? Black Hood. Naruto paused for a moment, having somehow slipped far enough to be caught. Raz would definitely be disappointed, but Naruto would fix his mistake. He would have to kill Shikamaru. Grinning from ear to ear, Naruto started laughing. You're pretty smart for an electronics repairman, the blonde noted. By the way, call me Thelab. Black Hood is such a cliché. Well, I graduated from high school when I was 12. So yeah, I'm pretty skilled for a 16-year-old. In fact, I know who you really are, Naruto Namikaze. Shikamaru added, making Naruto gasp in surprise. There's no way you can figure that out so quickly. Naruto began as he prepared to attack Shikamaru. Who are you? Shikamaru spread his arms and shrugged. I'm your everyday lazy/genius. All it took was a little research and hacking to figure out a few things. There was still a big time gap, but I gathered enough information to assume who you are. Naruto was genuinely surprised. Sure, there were some clues about Naruto that made it obvious. However, to link a complete stranger you talked to for 5 minutes to a kid who disappeared 11 years ago, and then also discover his secret identity. Well, that wasn't just genius. It was a level of intelligence far beyond Naruto's. You have talent, but... Naruto began as he moved quickly and pulled out the knife. Though before he could throw the object at Shikamaru's throat, the blonde stopped in his tracks. Naruto didn't understand what was happening. His body simply stopped completely, as if some force was holding him back. Then, before the blonde realized it, his body forced itself to mimic Shikamaru's position. What are you going to do? Naruto asked, doing his best to fight against whatever had him. Shikamaru pointed at the ground, which of course forced Naruto to do the same. As he did this, he allowed Naruto to see a dark line connecting their shadows. I have the ability to control my shadow. I can use that ability to link my shadow to others and control their movements. Shikamaru explained, taking his empty hand and holding it against his neck. This, of course, caused Naruto to put his own knife to his neck. As you can see, you're in a bit of a fix, Naruto snarled and glared at Shikamaru. What do you want? You've found out who I really am and what I do in my free time. So what's your point? You haven't alerted the authorities, but you were planning to confront me about something. However, I can tell you're not planning to kill me. Your eyes give you away, you're not a murderer. So tell me, what do you want? Shikamaru sighed and let go of Naruto. I'm desperate, okay. I can't go to the police, and I need someone's help. Then, when you came to my shop yesterday, and I started piecing together who you were, I thought you'd be my only help. The young genius explained as he leaned against the counter behind him. So that's my angle. I need your help, Naruto. Naruto relaxed and looked at Shikamaru. All the signs Raz had taught him to detect deception were absent with the teenager. Evidently, he was telling the truth. Okay, let's pretend for a moment that I would help you. Why come to me and not the police? And why should I help you anyway? What could possibly be in it for me? Naruto asked, making Shikamaru groan. You're a really troublesome guy, you know that. Shikamaru pointed out, holding up 3 fingers. 1. I'm mixed up with the wrong kind of crowd. A crowd that has my mother sick, and if I don't pay them, they'll kill her. Also, if I call the police, they'll kill her. Naruto replied, causing Shikamaru to nod. Exactly, then there's the fact that you could kill me and not worry about my problems. Then there'd be no one to stop the charge of who you are, meaning Naruto Namikaze, and the Black Hood's cover would be blown. Shikamaru explained with a small smile. But this is why you should help me. I figured there's information on this phone that you want. Well, it's all encrypted, and I'm sure you don't know how to beat encryption. So you help me save my mom, and I'll help you. Simple as that. Naruto crossed his arms and looked down. And you said I'm trouble? The blonde laughed as he shook his head. Okay, Shikamaru, you have a deal. I'll help you save your mother. However, you better keep your end of the bargain. Shikamaru raised his arms. I have no reason not to do it too, the teenager replied. Just help me save my mom. Okay, I'll help you. Naruto agreed, before walking toward the tent door. Come with me. We can go to my hideout and plan this rescue. Shikamaru nodded and followed the blonde, unaware of the friendship and partnership that would be born that night. Chapter 5. Helping an enemy. Naruto entered his shop, while Shikamaru was right on his heels. The blonde was currently taking the team to his headquarters so they could come up with a rescue plan. As they made their way to Naruto's office, the blonde stopped by his hidden bookshelf, causing Shikamaru to groan. You really have a hidden room behind a bookshelf? That's so cliché, the lazy teenager muttered. Naruto smiled and picked up a book and moved it aside. A mechanism made a clicking noise and the bookshelf slid out of the way, revealing a large elevator to Shikamaru. Please, I'm a billionaire. I have much better tricks than a simple room, Naruto replied, as he entered his hidden elevator. Are you coming? Shikamaru shoved his hands in his pockets and entered the elevator. Troublesome blonde. The teen grumbled before the door closed, and they began to descend. Naruto smiled and put his hands behind his back, waiting for the elevator to reach its destination. Shikamaru stood still and tried to figure out how someone could build this without alerting a large crowd of people to its existence. However, when the elevator made a sound and its doors opened, Shikamaru was instantly surprised. Naruto smiled and entered his headquarters. Welcome to my little secret lair. I've been working on names in my head. I'm leaning more toward Fox Den, but I'll think about it some more. Shikamaru ignored the blonde and walked past Naruto. This is cutting-edge technology. Do you even know how to work half of it? The black-haired teen began, taking a seat and beginning to type on one of the many computers. Naruto walked over and watched Shikamaru work on the computer. All he saw were numbers rapidly scrolling across the screen. Besides playing online poker? Not much, amateur. Shikamaru muttered as he stood up and walked over to a display case. Noticing Naruto's uniform, he began rubbing his chin. That's not a very effective uniform. It looks primitive. A gun would tear you to pieces, and I doubt it's resistant to heat or cold. Naruto narrowed his eyes. It's the uniform the League of Assassins has worn for centuries. It's designed for stealth, not gunfights. The blonde assassins pointed out. Shikamaru nodded and walked away. I could still make a better one, the teen replied before stopping at the station where Naruto kept his weapons. I could also make some improvements to your arsenal. Ever thought about using trick arrows? Naruto sighed and held out his arms. Are we going to talk about saving your mom, or are you going to keep criticizing me? Most likely both. Shikamaru replied emotionlessly, walking over to the board where Naruto kept all his evidence of his family's murder. What are you gathering all this information about? Wait, don't answer that. Naruto groaned and looked up at the ceiling, while Shikamaru began running his fingers through the different pieces of information Naruto had. That makes sense, Shikamaru muttered, turning to face Naruto. You're in Jump City to find out who was responsible for the attack that killed your father and sister. And I'm guessing that phone has the next clue you need. Naruto nodded. Well, look, I have my own little junior detective. The blonde spoke sarcastically. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Dick, the teenage genius muttered. Naruto crossed his arms and narrowed his gaze. Excuse me? You're excused, Shikamaru replied, walking over to the computer he'd been at a few moments ago. Then, as he sat down, he began typing once more. Naruto grabbed a chair and placed it next to Shikamaru. Then as he sat down, he began to speak. All right, are we going to talk about saving your mother? Because I need information, like who has her and where her captives are holding her. I'd also like to know why your mother was kidnapped in the first place. But everyone seems interested in doing is screwing around. Shikamaru sighed and stopped writing. For starters, the Russian mafia took her. Does Jump City have a Russian mafia? Naruto replied in a confused tone. Every big shitty city has a Russian mob. Shikamaru pointed out. Though that's why I'm on this computer. I was supposed to meet with a man and pay the money I owe the mob. Then they'd give me back my mom, but I'm not stupid. I know that even if I had the money to pay them, they wouldn't give me back my mom. So I'm trying to scan known areas used by the mob while hacking into security camera footage on the street for any sign of my mom. What helps us? There are hundreds of hours of footage on those cameras. There's no way you can locate your mother. Naruto responded in disbelief. Shikamaru began typing again. That would be true, except I'm using your cutting-edge technology to perform facial scans for my mom. In a few minutes, I should know her exact location. Naruto was impressed. He had to admit that Shikamaru was both challenging and helpful. Okay, then answer me this. Why do you owe the mafia money? Naruto asked. Shikamaru turned around and faced Naruto with a blank expression. When I was 13, my dad died in a car accident. He survived the collision, but later died in the hospital. Though before he died, my dad told me his last words. He asked me to always make him proud and look out for my mom. So, when my mom got deathly ill and we didn't have the money for her medical bills, I got some money from some dangerous people to help my mom. And now here I am, working with a killer to stop killers. Naruto nodded and began to think to himself, while at the same time walking towards his uniform. Shikamaru was like him, a boy who lost his father and would do anything to protect his mother. Okay, I'll go in my suit for the rescue mission. I'll lend you a spare uniform to wear. That way the mafia shouldn't recognize you. Naruto explained as he took his uniform. After all, some mafia members might still be after you. Yeah, about that. Shikamaru began, folding his hands and looking at Naruto. I'm not going with you. Naruto looked confused as he held his uniform. What do you mean? Your powers might be useful in saving your mom. That's true, but I'm not like you. You can jump, shoot arrows, and fight with your hands and your sword. Shikamaru then pointed to his head. This is my best weapon. With or without power, it would only stop you. Naruto didn't argue. Shikamaru made a point. Especially since Naruto always worked better alone anyway. Okay, I'll go get your mom, but what are you going to do? Naruto asked. Shikamaru walked over to the computer and grabbed a small device, then, with little effort, tossed it to Naruto. I'm on supervision. Shikamaru explained, putting on a headset. Take that headpiece and I'll walk you through everything, building schematics, enemy locations, and anything else I can find for help. Naruto smiled. That should help. Yes, because I thought so. Shikamaru criticized. Now get dressed and we can discuss rescue plans. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked away. Don't order me around. The blonde grumbled, doing what Shikamaru told him to do. Titan's Tower. Robin had just called his team to a meeting. The topic at hand was, of course, Thelab, also known as Naruto. While Robin waited impatiently in front of a computer screen, his team slowly entered the room, one at a time. Beast Boy and Cyborg entered almost at the same time, both teenagers with carefree expressions on their faces. Neither of them really knew the reason their leader had called this meeting. Starfire was the next to enter the room, floating in the air and humming a happy tune to herself. She, like her other teammates, was unaware of the reason for this gathering. Finally, Raven entered the room with a chalkboard expression, holding a book in her arms. She seemed to be reading a book, and Robin interrupted her. Soon the entire team took their seats, and Robin cleared his throat. Then, clicking a remote control in his hand, images of Thelab appeared on the screen. As you all know, we've been having difficulties with this Thelab for the past few days. The boy wonder began. He's already killed countless criminals, but he's finally gone too far. Robin then clicked on a picture of a smiling man. In the last 24 hours, Thelab has killed the famous businessman Garfield Sharp. A man who had no criminal record or criminal involvement whatsoever. Raven looked at the photo and crossed her arms. He mentioned he had a goal. Could this be the goal he talked about? The heroine mused. Robin looked at Raven and sighed. Possibly, but there's no way to know for sure. That is unless we capture Thelab and get the information out of him, Cyborg frowned. So we have to assume there are more targets he's after. The half-teenager, half-robot pointed out. Unfortunately. Robin responded with a small nod. But there's good news, as I finally figured out why this Thelab seemed so familiar. Starfire looked surprised. Have you fought the Thelab before? The alien princess asked. Robin shook his head. Not exactly, but I've fought against the organization he works for or that he works for. It's a group that's had many names, the most notable being the League of Shadows and the League of Assassins. Robin then clicked the remote control, and an image of Raz appeared on the screen. This is their leader, Raz Al Ghul. I assume he's the master of Thelab, and if I'm correct, we're in trouble. So what makes you so sure this guy from Thelab is part of the League of Shadows? Beast Boy asked. I referenced his fighting style and uniform with data Batman has collected over the years. It seems like a perfect match. Robin replied in a somber tone. Which is bad considering he probably has hundreds of allies within the League. Great, we're fighting an entire army of assassins. Raven muttered unenthusiastically. Almost immortal assassins. Robin added, causing his team to become confused. What are you talking about, Rob? Cyborg asked. The boy wonder sighed. The League of Shadows has a mystical pool, called the Lazarus Pit. It's a powerful tool that Raz has used to stay alive for centuries. Batman even told me it has the power to bring the dead back to life. Beast Boy threw his hands in the air. An army of immortal assassins, I'm done for! The boy grumbled. Robin turned off the screen behind him and looked at his team. Things aren't that hopeless. So far, I'm just guessing. However, we need to plan for eliminating Thelab permanently. So until he's captured, we'll be taking turns patrolling the city at night. Is that the safest course of action, Robin? Starfire began, her voice worried. Thelab escaped when we fought together, and she said the next time we get in her way, she'll try to kill us. So, is it a good idea to send one person alone? It's the best we can do for now. Robin replied quietly. We can't let him kill anyone else. And Thelab seems to prefer nighttime attacks, but not all of us can fight crime 24/7. So we have to take turns to stay at our best. After all, Thelab isn't the only threat to this city. Raven took a step forward. Very well, then I'll be the first to stand night watch. The heroine announced. Robin shook his head. No, I was going to take the first shift. It's my idea, so I should be the one to go. Besides working with Batman, I'm used to working at night. Raven smiled. Robin, you're exhausted. You've gone crazy trying to catch Thelab. Take a night to rest and get back to your best. Besides, you said it yourself, the first innocent person he kills is my fault. After all, I was the one who let him go. So let me take the first turn. Robin opened his mouth to protest, but knew Raven wouldn't listen. All right, just radio in on your communicator if you get into trouble. Raven nodded and stood up. It should be fine, she replied, walking toward the exit. You four just rest and don't worry. With Naruto. Naruto was currently fully equipped and riding his motorcycle through an abandoned underground tunnel. The Blonde's headquarters was connected to an entire network of abandoned underground tunnels, allowing Naruto to move freely around the city without being tracked. He soon began climbing a steep slope of stairs, before blasting his way through the streets of Jump City. Once he hit the street, Naruto began speeding his way through the traffic, ignoring other vehicles and traffic signs. Naruto, take the next right, Shikamaru instructed through his radio communications. Traffic cameras show there's a JCPD patrol car ahead, so it's best to avoid a high-speed chase. Understood. Naruto replied, moving to his right. Hey, do you think you can hack the traffic lights and make them all green? There was a snort on the other end. Easily, Shikamaru replied, typing on the computer from his end. You should have all the green lights from here on out, thank you. Naruto spoke with a small smile, as he revved his motorcycle and took off at a faster speed. No problem, Shikamaru replied, taking a moment of silence. Well, that could be a problem. I don't like that tone. Naruto began, making a sharp turn. What's wrong? Shikamaru began typing faster than before, his eyes scanning multiple screens. You're being followed. I'm not sure by what. Though something is definitely monitoring your movements. Naruto tightened his grip on his handlebars. Where are you watching this? Naruto asked, trying to look in the rearview mirrors. Check your 7, it looks like someone's flying next to you. Shikamaru explained, as he tried to figure out who was following the blonde. Naruto looked up and over, allowing him to see the person following him. This, of course, made Naruto groan. It's Raven, the blonde revealed. Though I don't see her team, Shikamaru, what do you see? The teenager began scanning the multiple cameras around the blonde. So far, it looks like she's alone, but you should try to lose her. What do you think I'm trying to do? Naruto replied in an annoyed tone. It's hard when the other person can fly. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. Did you try to shoot him? The teenager asked. Did you try to shoot him? Naruto mimicked in a childish voice, taking his hands off the bike and grabbing his bow. Then, leaning back, he aimed and shot an arrow at Raven. Shikamaru watched the arrow travel toward Raven, only for the teen to fly out of the way. Good lady. Shikamaru mocked, causing Naruto to growl through the headphones. A little hard to be accurate while driving at night and shooting at a flying target. Who likes wearing dark clothes? Naruto replied, slinging his bow on his back and continuing to drive. Above Naruto, Raven narrowed her eyes at Naruto. That's definitely Thelab. The teen muttered, reaching for her communicator, but decided to leave it at that. I don't need backup for this. Naruto looked toward Raven and tried to lose the hero by making a sharp turn into a large alley. However, such a simple tactic was useless as Raven was hot on Naruto's trail. Raven quickly flew down so she was flying next to Naruto. Then, as her hands began to glow black, she focused on the wheels of Naruto's bike. This caused the wheels to become covered in a black aura and begin to stop on their own. Naruto was finding it increasingly difficult to control his motorcycle. He was still accelerating, but Raven was forcing it to stop with her powers. So, knowing he was almost caught, Naruto slammed on the brakes, sending his bike skidding down the alley. He stopped where he was face to face with Raven, who was flying above the assassin. I'm in a hurry, Raven, so why don't you fly, pretty bird? Thelab's personality began in her disguised voice. Raven floated slowly to the ground and looked at the killer. Why did you kill Garfield Sharp? Naruto shrugged and laughed. Someone asked me to kill him, so I did, the masked assassin replied. See, that's how assassination contracts work. Raven's hands began to glow black. Is that why you're in my city? Just to have the chance to kill that man? Please, I have my own agenda for being here. Killing Mr. Sharp was just a favor to someone. Naruto replied nonchalantly, before pointing at his bike. Now, if you don't mind, Raven, I'm on a schedule here. So I have to be on my way. Raven thrust a hand forward, causing Naruto's body to become enveloped in a black aura. Azarath, Mitri and Zinthos, the teenager chanted before jerking her hand to the side. Naruto's body flew off his bike and crashed into a building, landing on the ground with a grunt. The blonde-haired assassin slammed his hands onto the ground and began pushing his body upward. Buck, that hurts. The blonde groaned softly, frowning at Raven. I'd love to play, but I have more important things to do. Raven clenched her fists and glared at the assassin. What, are you going to kill more people for the League of Shadows? Raven asked angrily. Because I won't let you take another life. Naruto was taken aback, but tried not to show his surprise to the woman. How did she find out about my time in the League? Did I slip up and let even more information about myself get out? No, I've been clumsy recently, but not to that extent. Naruto thought to himself, before dusting himself off and deciding to play along with the teen's comment. Heh, so you know I used to work for the League of Shadows. Though I'm no longer affiliated with my old master or his little band of assassins, so it seems Robin was right about you being a member of the League, or should I say former member. I wasn't even sure you were part of the League, thanks for clearing that up. Raven began with a cocky smirk, one that made Naruto smirk behind his mask. She was bragging. Of course the boy who made the mistake would know about the League. After all, he and Uncle Bruce would have met with Raz and the League. Though I must say I'm a little impressed by how she used her words to get more information out of me. Naruto thought to himself, you never cease to impress me, Raven. I'm curious why you hang out with your little band of rejects. Naruto began in a casual tone. Don't talk about my friends like that. Raven ordered with a glare, causing a pipe on the side of a building to burst. Because of this, Raven momentarily lost control of her emotions. They're great heroes. If anyone is rejected, it's you. You have so much potential, but you wasted taking lives that aren't yours. I only kill those who deserve death. Like drug dealers, rapists, crime lords, corrupt businessmen, and other scum the earth has created. If anything, I help protect this city more than you and your team could ever dream of. Naruto clenched his fists and took a deep breath. He really didn't have time to debate morals with Raven right now. That's not how justice works. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner whenever you want. Killing turns you into a monster like the people you kill. Raven screamed, her anger slowly growing out of her control. Listen, I'd love to sit here and waste more time arguing with you. But while you're hunting me, I'm trying to save someone's life. Naruto yelled back, causing Raven to fall silent. What do you mean? Raven asked softly, the killer's words catching her off guard. It really doesn't need an explanation. A woman was kidnapped, and I'm saving her. Since you and your team haven't done anything to help her. Naruto replied as he walked toward his bike. Some heroes are. Naruto's words left a mark as Raven grimaced, always believing she and her team were the city's saving force. Though she was unaware of a missing and kidnapped woman. Honestly, for the first time since joining the Titans, Raven began to wonder if what they did was enough. Ignoring Raven, Naruto got back on his bike and was about to take off. He stopped when Raven suddenly called out to him. I'm not going to let you go. You could be lying, after all. So if there really is a woman in danger, I'll help you save her. Naruto snorted. Sorry, pretty bird, but I don't need your help. And I don't need your permission, I'm coming. And if there isn't a woman in danger, yes, you'll try to capture me. Naruto interrupted, waving his hands. Though as he revved his motorcycle, Naruto smiled under his mask. Try to keep up. Naruto sped out of the alley, causing Raven to frown as she followed him. Shouldn't we avoid their help? Shikamaru asked through the communications link. Naruto looked over his shoulder and saw Raven flying close behind. Well, I don't have time to take her out, and like I said, we're on a timetable to save your mother. So I'll deal with her once your mother is safe and out of danger. However, Raven doesn't know I have a partner. We should keep it that way. Agreed. Shikamaru replied. I'll only be contacting you and giving you information, so you shouldn't try to contact me, just listen. Also, don't give any indication that you have a partner giving you information. After all, I think giving the illusion of working alone might be beneficial. Copy that. I'll remain radio silent for the remainder of the rescue. Naruto reported, before turning back to Raven. This isn't how I imagined this day would go. High above, Raven looked at the assassin known as Thelab with a loving gaze. She wondered if he was truly telling the truth about a captured woman. Or if this was just a facade to escape, or even to lure her into a trap. I didn't sense any deception when he talked about the kidnapped woman. However, he's a murderer and should be on his guard. Raven muttered to herself. Back with Naruto, the blonde-haired assassin made a sharp turn before heading down an empty street. Then, as he traveled another 30 meters, he entered an empty parking lot. It was located across from a not-so-empty storage warehouse, which was used by the local mafia. Then, as Naruto accelerated, he quickly headed to the top of the parking lot. He stopped on the ledge, allowing him to get a bird's-eye view of the warehouse. Let's see what we're dealing with, Naruto muttered, as he got off his bike and kicked the kickstand open. Crow floated behind Naruto, who was already looking at the warehouse through a small pair of binoculars. Here, take a look, Naruto offered, tossing the binoculars to Raven. She caught them with relative ease. There are 2 men stationed on the rooftop, while 6 men are patrolling the area around the building. Raven looked at each area Naruto pointed at and sighed. So, 8 men in total with automatic weapons are guarding the entrance to the building. While there are an unknown number of gangsters inside the warehouse, eliminating the gunmen should be easy. The hard part is locating and extracting the target. Naruto replied in a casual tone. I can take out the 6 on the ground. Can you handle the 2 on the roof? Raven nodded. Yes, I can take them out, but if you want my help, I have one condition. And that's not a death as long as we work together. Naruto looked at Raven and was about to protest her no-killing rule. However, once he saw how seriously she was about the rule, the blonde-haired assassin laughed to himself and decided to accept her terms. Very well, pretty bird, no killing. Just life-crippling wounds. Naruto replied in a cheeky voice, smiling beneath his mask. Raven rolled her eyes and tossed the binoculars to Naruto. That's not what I had in mind either. Couldn't you just knock them out? Clearly, you're strong enough to take out 6 armed men without killing or disfiguring them. Naruto shrugged. What? Batman kicks the hell out of bad guys all the time, the blonde replied in response. Just be glad I'm not going to kill those men, and focus on taking out the 2 on the roof. Can you do that, cute bird? Raven looked at the masked killer. Can I? And why do you keep calling me that? Naruto leaned over the edge of the building and smiled. You said not to call you beautiful, so like a crow is a bird and you are pretty. I feel like the name suits you. Naruto explained before grabbing his bow and pulling back an arrow. You know Raven isn't even my real name. Raven revealed in an annoyed tone. As if I'd tell you my real name anyway. Naruto released his bow, and an arrow with a line attached hit a building next to the warehouse. I'm sure you will someday, Naruto replied as he pulled back the line. Raven rolled her eyes and began to float in the air. Yeah, that'll happen after you take me on a date. Which means it'll never happen. Naruto chuckled and prepared to jump off the building, but before he dived, Naruto gave Raven a look, smiling behind his mask. Oh, I'll remember those words. The blonde assassin chuckled as he jumped off the building and headed for the warehouse. Watching her temporary allies zipline toward their targets, Raven shook her head and flew high above the 2 men she was assigned to eliminate. Stupid Thelab. The teenager growled as she stood over the 2 men on the roof. I swear, after this whole ordeal, I'm going to lock his ass in a prison cell. Raven's hands suddenly began to glow, along with her eyes. Then, within seconds, the 2 armed men on the roof flew toward each other like magnets. Their heads collided, knocking them unconscious in seconds. Their bodies fell hard onto the roof, their weapons slipping from their grasp. I should probably help Thelab with her 6. One false move and the men could alert anyone inside. Raven muttered, looking over to where Naruto was. Though as she did, the superheroine's eyes widened in surprise. Downstairs with Naruto, the blonde man was leaning casually against the storage crate. 6 battered, bloodied, and arrow-riddled bodies were unconscious around him. It took you long enough, Naruto began as he watched Raven float towards him. Raven looked a little offended by his words and clenched her fists. Did it take me long enough? It didn't even take me a minute to take those guys out, Raven retorted as she looked at Naruto and pointed at the fallen men. And I thought we said no killing. Naruto stood up and walked past Raven. Relax, pretty bird, they're very much alive. Naruto then smiled under his mask and chuckled. I told you I wouldn't go easy on them. So beating them up should teach them a lesson for participating in illegal activities. As for taking too long, when RA trained me, I expected the best. During a fight, I would get punished. So I learned to be fast and brutal in a fight. Raven followed Naruto slowly, a little furious at the assassin. At least he kept his word and didn't kill the men. However, her rage was suppressed as she thought about the assassin's words. She wondered if she would actually be punished if she didn't live up to her former master's expectations. This question began to annoy Raven beyond belief, as she stared at Naruto's rear end. The latter was approaching a small metal door. How was the League sullen? Wasn't it a good education? Raven finally asked, deciding to try to get more information out of her enemy. Naruto froze for a moment as his hand reached for the door. Memories of brutal beatings, vicious fights to the death, and his body being put through the worst pain possible came flooding back to him. He began to hear his younger self's voice screaming in pain, while Ra's screamed in disappointment. Work harder, don't be weak. Ra's voice echoed in his head. You are my will. Naruto gripped the door handle with his trembling hand. Memories he'd suppressed over the years flooded back. The first time he disappointed Raz, his first punishment, the first time he took his own life. I trusted you. A faint female voice spoke in his head, causing Naruto to stiffen and zone out. Traitor, failure, killer, monster. Naruto gritted his teeth as he heard different voices from his past and present. All of them dredging up the repressed feelings buried beneath Naruto's murderous personality from Thelab. Thelab? Raven spoke, touching the assassin's rear end, forcing Naruto to jump in surprise. Is something wrong? Naruto shook his head and placed his hand back on the door. It's okay, I was just reminiscing about my past. Trust me, it's nothing you want to hear, the blonde explained, opening the door slightly and peering inside. The coast is clear, let's go in. Raven watched Naruto enter with a loving gaze. Obviously, mentioning his past brought back some painful memories. Raven could easily sense her emotions, knowing that his past with the League wasn't very pleasant. Maybe he's not so bad. He looks like a lost soul, one no one has tried to save. Raven thought to herself, as she followed Naruto. As the two snuck through the warehouse, Naruto heard Shikamaru speaking quietly into Naruto's earpiece. There are 10 men inside the building. My mother is being held in a small office in the corner just to the right. Nodding, Naruto snuck behind a large stack of crates, while Raven followed him. Then, as he looked around the crates, Naruto pretended to start counting the thugs he could spot. There are 10 in total, Naruto explained to Raven in a low voice. Then, on the far right, I see a small room, most likely where the hostage is. What's the plan? Raven asked. How good are you at stealth? Naruto quickly asked, causing Raven to create a black portal in the ground, which he slowly sank into. Good enough. The teenager replied with a smile before getting back up from the ground. Then it's your job to save the hostage. I'll eliminate and distract the kidnappers. Naruto explained, grabbing his bow and arrow. Remember, yeah, not killing you, got you. Naruto muttered before slowly walking away and sticking to the shadows. Crows saw Naruto spring into action and decided to leave as well. Try not to get shot, the girl murmured softly, so only she could hear. Next to Naruto, the assassin was hunched over a stack of wooden crates. Below, he could see two men talking to each other about their next big score. On the other side of the two men was a third, standing alone and smoking a cigarette. Filthy habit, Naruto muttered before leaping off the crates and landing on top of the two men. Then, grabbing their heads, Naruto slammed their faces into the concrete floor, knocking them unconscious. Naruto then released his men and performed a forward spin. Then, in a quick move, he grabbed his bow and halted his momentum by planting 1 foot forward. 3 down. The blonde chuckled before firing an arrow at the smoking thug. The man screamed in pain and fell down. This did, however, gain the attention of the other 7 mobsters in the room. What? An intruder! One of the men shouted, before machine gun fire rained down on Naruto. It's Black Hood, kill him, boys! Shit! Naruto cursed, running and firing his bow. He managed to take out 3 more men in a quick exchange before diving into cover and taking a deep breath. I'm sick of cowards using firearms! Naruto quickly peeked around his cover, only to dive back in as more bullets flew at him. I really hate guns, makes me wish I'd trained my powers more, Naruto grumbled, before noticing a fuse box in the distance. Though let's see how they can aim without light. With Raven, the heroine finally snuck into the room where the hostage was being held. Though when she heard gunshots, Raven sighed and shook her head. I'd better not kill anyone, the purple-haired girl muttered, before noticing a woman tied to a chair in the back. But at least he wasn't lying about the kidnapped woman. Running quickly toward the woman, Raven noticed that she was most likely in her 30s or 40s. She had long, black hair, greasy and unkempt, making Raven wonder how long she had been held captive. Her hands were tied behind her back and her mouth was closed. Are you okay? Raven asked, as she began to untie the woman and remove the tape around her mouth. I'm fine, cough. Who are you? The woman asked in a weak voice. Is my son okay? Raven frowned. This woman was a mother whose son was probably very worried about her. I'm Raven of the Teen Titans, and don't worry, everything is fine, Raven explained, hoping to ease her worries without lying. Since Raven didn't know anything about a son, and she wondered if the lab knew. What is his name? Yoshino Nara, Yoshino revealed in a low voice, before she began to cough violently. Raven held out a hand to support the woman, who was clearly ill. Suddenly, though, the lights went out, and the sounds of screaming soon followed. What's going on? Yoshino asked in a fearful voice, her eyes unable to adjust to the darkness. Just the other person who came to rescue you, probably taking out the rest of your captors, Raven explained before lifting the woman with her magic. Don't worry about that, though. I'll get you out of here. Thank you? Yoshino spoke in a weak voice, before fainting. Raven smiled as the room fell silent, revealing that the fight outside was over. Don't thank me, I was just a chaperone. You have someone else to thank for your rescue, not me or my team. Ah, that's sweet of you to say. Naruto chuckled, leaning against the doorway of the room. What does she look like? Raven watched with a calculating gaze as Naruto entered the room and walked over to inspect Yoshino. She's asleep, but she needs medical attention, Raven explained, causing Naruto to nod. Then I'm trusting her to you, Naruto revealed with a small laugh. After all, they might try to arrest me if I take her to the hospital. You're lucky I'm not trying to capture you here and now, Raven replied sternly. But since this woman needs medical attention, her life comes before your capture. Oh, is that it? Or do you just want another night on the town with me? Naruto asked playfully. We make a pretty good team after all. Raven looked at the blonde. Don't take this the wrong way, you did well tonight. But you're still a criminal, and I'll catch you, the girl declared determinedly. Then I look forward to the next meeting, pretty bird, Naruto replied, before slowly walking away and leaving the hero behind. Raven clenched her fist, but when she noticed the assassin leaving the room, she relaxed. Nice bird, huh? Raven murmured the name as she walked toward the exit with Yoshino floating beside her. Sorry, Thelab, but I like blondes better. At Naruto headquarters, Shikamaru watched as a door the size of a large car opened in Naruto's headquarters. This was soon followed by the blonde assassin riding inside on his motorcycle. Naruto parked his bike and then, pulling down his mask and taking off his hood, walked toward Shikamaru. The latter approached the blonde with a smile and his hand outstretched. Thank you? Shikamaru thanked him, as Naruto took his hand. I owe you? Naruto broke the handshake and walked to where he kept his weapons. Then, as he unbuckled his belt, Naruto placed his sword on a table. Don't think twice, we both needed something, so I helped you, Naruto began, as he placed his bow on a display rack. Now it's your turn to help me, Shikamaru nodded. The phone, which might have information on the Mizuki man you're looking for, the teenager then explained before his voice became a little frustrated. I've already started investigating that for you, so? Naruto asked, as he walked over to a chair to sit down. Shikamaru grabbed the phone and threw it to Naruto. I cracked the encryption, but there's a complication. The phone has dates for different drug deals, but the buyers and sellers have code names. So we know when and where the drug deals are going to fall, but we don't know who's in on the deals. Son of a bitch! Naruto yelled, as he stood up and punched the nearest wall. However, I did do some research on this Mizuki Sato, which turned out to be quite fruitful. I now have a photo of what he looks like and a list of his crimes and known associates, Shikamaru explained, causing Naruto to smile in delight. I don't have a location, but it's more information to add to our search. Ours? Naruto questioned in a confused voice. I just needed you to keep my secret and get me the information I need. Which you did, and I'm grateful, but you don't need to keep helping me. Shikamaru nodded and approached Naruto. I know, but I've done some thinking. We both have the ability to be a real help to this city. The teen began with conviction. This list of drug deals and finding the people responsible for the deaths of their families is just the beginning. We have the technology and the skill to be the vigilantes this city needs. Think about it, we can make sure no family suffers like yours. He has a point. Naruto began quietly. I always questioned what I would do after avenging my family. And it felt good when I saved your mother and played the hero, Shikamaru smiled. With my brain and your skill, we can do anything. Though I'd have to upgrade your uniform and arsenal first, Naruto smirked. And I'll have to teach you how to throw a punch, the blonde replied. So partners? Shikamaru asked, holding out his hand to Naruto. Naruto firmly grasped Shikamaru's hand. Partners, the blonde replied with a wide grin. We'll find those responsible for my dad and Mito's deaths, but along the way, we'll protect this city. Shikamaru stepped back and smiled, then, putting his hands in his pockets, left. Well, tomorrow we'll begin our crusade and sort everything out. For now, though, I'm going to see my mother. Naruto smiled and said goodbye to his new partner. Things were changing rapidly, but they were working in Naruto's favor, which was exactly what the assassin preferred. Chapter 6. The Date and the Favor. 9 years ago, Naruto was 7 years old. Deep in the Arabian desert, there was a city hidden from the world. A place created by Raz al Ghul himself, called Eth al-Theben. Within its walls, the League of Assassins first took shape. To many, this fortress was nothing more than a fable, a fabricated tale about a city of assassins passed down only to frighten small children. Though this city, like those within its walls, is very real. However, to those who live within its walls, they refer to this place as home. A place where League members take refuge, a place where they can train and become better than they are. Athaltheben is a place where a weak individual can become the strongest warrior. That's why 2 years ago, one Naruto Namikaze decided to leave Gotham and come to this very place. Though he quickly learned that his new lifestyle would never be enjoyable. Get up! A deep voice shouted, anger laced throughout. He looked at the battered boy at his feet. Or have you forgotten this is a fight to the death? Naruto heard the voice and clenched his knuckles, a feeling of despair washing over him. His master had ordered the blonde to fight another member of the League, but Naruto wasn't ready. He was 7 years old, and his limited training coupled with his small body could only take him so far. Whereas his opponent had decades of training, countless battle experiences, and was simply more powerful. I said get up! The man roared, kicking Naruto in his ribcage, sending the blonde rolling onto the cold stone floor. As he stood on his back, Naruto coughed up some blood. Then, as he took a deep breath, he met the gaze of his master, Raz al Ghul, who was watching from the side. Well, kid, are you going to get up? Raz asked, his tone a little disappointed. Gritting his teeth, Naruto stood up. Then, as he rocked back and forth, the assassin in training tried to assume a fighting stance. All he managed was to hold it for a second before stumbling forward. Raz watched the boy fall to the ground and sighed. In 2 years, what have you accomplished? Raz asked, as he walked toward the blonde. Surely you can call yourself an adequate archer now, and your swordsmanship is subpar. Which is better than your previous non-existent skill. Though you've still failed in 2 aspects, do you know what your faults are? Naruto looked down and pressed his head against the stone floor. I've never defeated one of your assassins in a duel. The blonde replied weakly. Raz nodded. Yes, and that is to be expected. You are young and weak. Whereas my assassins have decades of experience and growth to use against you. Raz explained to the blonde, crossing his arms behind his back. I never expect you to win against them, well, not yet. I only wish for you to grow from the experience. Though so far I'm not seeing that growth. Sorry, master. Naruto muttered softly. What's my second failure? Raz turned his back on Naruto as he walked toward the assassin the blonde had been fighting. In the 2 years of your training, you've avoided taking one of the biggest steps toward becoming a true assassin. The man began, drawing his sword from his hip. You have yet to kill anyone, Raz revealed, as he plunged his sword into his own assassin's chest. See how easy this is? Naruto looked up and watched as his master, effortlessly and without emotion, killed one of his own men. The assassin's body hit the ground with a loud thud. You've had many opportunities to kill, though you've never defeated a full member of the League. Of your fellow assassins in training, you are the finest. Raz took a cloth and began wiping the blood off his sword, while some assassins began dragging the corpse from the room. Yet you always show mercy to your training partners in the masts. You never kill those you manage to defeat, though if the roles were reversed, they would kill you. Naruto took a swig and clenched his fists. His entire life, everyone had told him that killing was wrong. His father and his surrogate uncle, Bruce Wayne, along with his mother, had always told him that killing was bad. So Naruto could never bring himself to take another life. But all this will change, as I'm sending you on a mission, Raz revealed with a wide smile. You'll be accompanied by my eldest daughter, who will oversee your mission. She won't assist you, she'll only observe and ensure you kill your target. Do you understand? Naruto nodded and slowly stood up, only to bow. Yes, master, I understand. The blonde murmured softly, his mind deeply conflicted about taking another life. Raz smiled. Good, then go rest. Your mission will begin in a few days. So I'll inform you about your assignment later. Naruto nodded and turned his body, heading back to his quarters. Though he kept asking himself, did he have what it took to become an assassin? He knew that to avenge his father and sister, he would have to, but Naruto was starting to question, for the first time since his arrival, whether he could actually become a true assassin. Current events, Naruto bookstore. It was the day after Naruto joined Raven and rescued Shikamaru's mother. Currently, the blonde-haired teen sat in his underground headquarters, his face glued to the clue board he'd set up together. He was studying the image of Mizuki's face, making a note to memorize every key feature of the man's face, as he was the blonde's current target. Mizuki was an overly confident-looking man. As in his photo, He was dressed in an expensive suit and smiling at the camera. Though his defining features were his green eyes and his hair, the latter of which was shoulder-length and completely white. According to a birth certificate Shikamaru took from a hospital database, Mizuki is only 29 years old. Hair like that isn't common for men his age, which would make finding him a little easier. However, there's almost no other information on him. Naruto muttered to himself, trying to think of his next plan of action. We're back to square one, but at least now I have a face that matches the name. Hearing a sound, Naruto turned his attention to the elevator, from which Shikamaru had just emerged. It's about time you showed up, Naruto muttered, pretending to be annoyed. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever. The teen grumbled before taking a seat. Troublesome blonde. I don't do early mornings. You're lucky I decided to come and not sleep in, Naruto smiled. Yeah, lucky me, but in all seriousness, how's your mom? Shikamaru leaned back and stared at the ceiling. She's a little shaken up from the experience, but I feel like she'll be fine. Especially after an unknown benefactor paid her hospital bills and arranged for her to receive the treatment she needs to be healthy again. The boy explained before looking back at Naruto, already deducing who paid his family's bills. Hey, then I guess you got off pretty lucky. The blonde replied in a casual tone. Yeah, I guess we did, but after she recovers, she'll be moving to Hub City without me. We have family there, and she just wants to get away from Jump City. Shikamaru explained in a dry voice. And she's okay with you staying behind? Naruto muttered in confusion. Shikamaru nodded. Yeah, I made up a story about me eventually attending a local university in Jump City. This should be an easy excuse since I can easily hack into any network and make it look like I'm a student. I also said I'd be staying with a friend, so that might explain why I'm never on campus. That's good, I have too much space in my apartment for one person, so you could move in. Besides, if we're going to be working together, we need alibis. You could be my roommate who works at my shop, and in return I'll pay you with a place to live. Naruto proposed, making Shikamaru nod his head. That would be the best course of action. We don't want anyone else to find out about your double life. Shikamaru noted with a smile. You mean our double life, now you're an achievement. Naruto replied with a wide grin. Yeah, that means trying not to put us both in jail. Killing and vigilantism is pretty illegal, after all. Shikamaru replied half-heartedly. Yeah, I know, so living here would be perfect. Naruto began, before standing up and walking over to his testing board. But let's get down to business. What's our first step? Shikamaru stood up, approached the blonde, and pointed to a list of names. These names are just different types of dog breeds. Now, I doubt the drug dealer stole this phone from the dogs he bred. So it's safe to assume these are his associates, and the dog breeds are names to hide their identities. And one of these names should be Mizuki, but we don't know which one. Naruto summarized, causing his partner to nod. Though that doesn't matter because we're in the vigilante game now. So we should start crossing names off this list. That's a start, but there are many more crimes we need to handle. Speaking of which, how do you plan to combat crime? Shikamaru asked, earning a confused look from the blonde-haired assassin. I mean, so far you've killed everyone you've faced, with the exception of last night. So, what are you going to do? Naruto shrugged and laughed. I'll rotate between an arrow to the chest and a sword to the chest. Naruto replied without giving the matter much thought. I used to believe killing was wrong, but now it's the only form of justice I know. And it works, so I won't be changing anytime soon, Shikamaru sighed. It's troublesome, but let's move on. The black-haired teen began as he approached Naruto's team. I need to order some supplies so I can upgrade your arsenal. You know, something like trick arrows and a more conventional disguise, if you insist on it. Naruto muttered as he walked over to a chair and sat down. Money won't be an issue, so just order whatever you want. Shikamaru nodded and walked over to his computer. So that takes care of living arrangements, alibis, and updating your equipment. However, there's another adventure we need to talk about. The Teen Titans. Naruto rolled his eyes. They've proven to be quite annoying. Though things get complicated with the Titans. For one thing, I'm not going to kill them. I may not like them or agree with their methods. But they help this city, and besides, if I kill the Titans, the Justice League will probably be knocking on our door. The blonde assassin explained before taking a long sigh. And without any control over my powers, I doubt I could last 2 seconds against powerhouses like Superman, Martian Manhunter, and The Flash. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. You have powers? Naruto smiled and held his palms open a few feet away. Then, as he began to concentrate, a whirlwind began to form between his hands, while lightning crackled around his body. Though this only lasted for a few seconds before Naruto stopped, took a deep breath, and hunched over. I can generate wind and lightning. Naruto panted, trying to catch his breath. But as you can see, I have no real control over my powers. Shikamaru began to think and scratched his chin. I could probably help you with that. After all, I have complete control over my powers. So I could show you some exercises I used when I was training. That would work, but let's get back to the Titans. Naruto began, causing Shikamaru to nod. They'll try everything in their power to capture me, no matter how much good it ends up doing. And there's the problem of them finding out who I am. Don't worry about them finding out who you are. Since we're working together, I can take all the information I used to deduce your identity and make it impossible to figure out who you are. Shikamaru explained, but Naruto just laughed nervously and rubbed his head. Look, there's a problem you don't know about, Naruto admitted. You see, Raven has had interactions with both Naruto Quinn and D-Lab. In fact, she and I are going out for tea tomorrow. You're troublesome, you know that, right? Shikamaru asked, massaging his forehead. Okay, you need to get some distance as quickly as possible. Naruto smiled and shook his head. No, I just need to show you how to fight. The blonde replied casually. After all, I want him to realize who I am. Okay, I'm a genius and I don't understand what you're thinking. Which probably means it's a terrible idea. Shikamaru muttered under his breath. Naruto shook his head. Listen, I have plans to take over my family's company, but not yet. That means the world will realize I'm Harley Quinn's son. Which then people might wonder if I'm a criminal like her. And if you compare the moment Naruto Quinn arrived in the city with the moment D-Lab started killing people, your cover could easily be blown. Shikamaru interrupted, as he began to figure out where this was going. Exactly, but if they already accuse me of being D-Lab and then clear my name, well, there's nothing to worry about. Naruto explained as he stood up. So that's why I need to teach you how to fight. Because one day you might have to play the role of a handsome, highly skilled assassin. It's troublesome, but it's a good plan. Shikamaru admitted, causing Naruto to nod. I know, my mom came up with it after all. Although I was going to call to ask a friend for a favor, but you should do it properly. Well, first I'll place some orders for new equipment, and then we can begin training your powers and my combat skills. Then, at night, we can begin our little crusade for justice. Shikamaru explained as he began typing on a keyboard. Though I do have one question, where did you disappear to for so many years? I've managed to find out everything about you, as well as where you've been for the past 11 years. Naruto smiled and stood up. Sounds like a plan to me, and I'm sure I can tell you a little about my time in the League of Assassins. We're partners, after all. Titan's Tower. Revan was having a quiet morning. His teammates Beast Boy and Cyborg were nowhere to be seen, so it was quite a feat. Starfire was still asleep, and that meant she wasn't up and making a horrendous breakfast. While their leader Robin was also absent, he was left with nothing but his book and a hot cup of coffee. Even though Raven was having her ideal morning, she couldn't get the events of the previous night out of her mind. Sure, she managed to save a woman's life, but she did so as an accomplice to a murderer. However, what made the whole situation unbearable was that D-Lab was right. There was a crime in Jump City that his team didn't even bother to stop. Raven always believed her team handled all the threats and problems within the city, but she was terribly mistaken. Crime was rampant, and neither she nor her team had done anything to combat it, but D-Lab had. Hell, he was the sole reason Yoshino Naro was still alive. Not Raven, no matter how much the hospital staff praised her for the rescue last night. I have to do more, Raven muttered, gripping her coffee mug tightly. It's time I started acting like a real hero. I won't let a murderer be the one to save this city. With that statement made to herself, Raven heard the sliding doors open. This caused Raven to look up and meet the gaze of her leader, Robin. She could tell from his body language alone that he wanted to talk to her and wasn't happy. Tomorrow, Raven greeted softly, her eyes fixed on Robin as she walked slowly in his direction. You were busy last night, Robin began before tossing a small tablet to Raven. You made the headlines this morning. Would you mind telling me? Raven looked at the tablet and fought the urge to groan as she read the headline. Raven of the Teen Titans saves the day, but was she alone? It's not what you think. Raven began. What isn't it? Robin shouted back, slamming his hands on the counter. It says you saved a woman who was being held hostage, which is great. However, the crime scene was swarming with mobsters who were dispatched by an archer. Now last I checked you fought with your powers, not arrows. We both know someone who does. Raven clenched her fists and compared Robin's gaze with her own. Just say it all, ready? Fine, I will. Robin retorted, pointing his finger at Raven. You ran into Thelab last night, and instead of capturing him, you helped him. I had no choice. Raven yelled back as she slammed her hands on the counter and leaned forward, inches away from her leader. It was his capture or a woman's life. I made my choice, and I stand by it. The two remained silent for a moment as the tension in the room began to rise. Robin's anger was clearly beginning to boil over. You could have contacted the rest of the team. We could have saved the woman and captured Thelab. But instead you let him escape a second time. Robin shouted loudly. You know what? Maybe I was afraid Thelab would run away if he called for help and that would have left the woman for dead. Or maybe I let him go because he did something good. Maybe I let him go because he showed me that our team turns a blind eye to so much crime in this city. Raven screamed as her powers flared and her coffee cup shattered. Robin could only shake his head in disappointment. Letting you do night patrol was a mistake, one I won't make again. Robin snarled before backing away and turning his back on Raven. I'll handle night patrol alone with Raven. If you aid an assassin like Thelab again, you're off this team. Raven took a deep breath and watched Robin leave the room. She was pissed off and needed to take some time to mediate in her room, but first she needed to clean up the mess she'd made. The next day, with Naruto. Today was the day Naruto and Raven had agreed to go on their date, and to say Naruto was a little nervous was an understatement. So many things could go wrong while he was with Raven, and Shikamaru had hammered it into his head to avoid giving himself away like Thelab before the time was right. By saying something stupid and getting caught. Currently the blonde was in his bathroom and was looking at his own reflection. Focus! Naruto told himself as he bounced on his heels. You've killed dictators, invaded secret compounds, hell, you handed the Teen Titans their collective asses in your first week in Jump City. You can handle spending time with a beautiful girl, one who's just hunting your alter ego. Naruto looked down at himself and hoped he was dressed the way Raven would like. Naruto was dressed in a pair of black skinny jeans and a white t-shirt. He also wore a red and black button-down shirt, which he left unbuttoned to reveal a small necklace his mother had given him. It was a small necklace with 3 red metal diamond-shaped charms hanging from the chain. It's now or never, Naruto muttered as he left his bathroom and entered his living room. Shikamaru, who was sitting in a recliner and fiddling with a small device, looked at Naruto. So you're really doing this, troublemaker? The teen began before returning his attention to the device in his hand. What, no words of advice? Naruto asked with an awkward laugh. Shikamaru snorted. Yeah, don't get us both arrested. Naruto rolled his eyes. Wow, what great advice. The blonde muttered sarcastically. Shikamaru twirled a screwdriver in the air. What do you want me to say? I don't have much experience with girls, but I guess you don't either. Naruto crossed his arms. Please, the League trained me in the art of seduction. So a date should be simple. I'll just skip the part where I kill Raven after Hex. The blonde replied, causing Shikamaru to laugh as he continued his work. Oh yeah, then you're fine. Shikamaru replied nonchalantly as he motioned for Naruto to leave. Go find his killer. Yeah, whatever. The blonde grumbled before walking away and walking down the stairs leading to his bookstore. Once he made it out to the front of his tent, Naruto walked over to the main door and opened it. Then, as he opened the door and stepped out, Naruto closed the door once more and leaned against his tent. Next, the blonde took out his cell phone and checked the time, his nerves worsening when he noticed that Raven should be showing up in the next minute or two. Though while Naruto waited for Raven to arrive, he felt his phone vibrate, signaling that he received a text message. I'm asking for a favor you owe me, call me for the details, Cheshire. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the message and began typing his reply. I can't call you. I'm meeting with Raven. How did you get this number anyway? I met your mom during my last visit to Gotham. She gave me this number. She's nice. A little crazy, but nice. Naruto rolled his eyes. Of course his mother was involved somehow. Imagine, just tell me what you want, Jade. No, call me after your little date so I can call in my favor and tease you. Naruto sighed and put his phone back in his pocket, interested in what Cheshire might want. Though at the same time, he really didn't want to deal with her teasing him over the phone about his time with Raven. I swear between Jade and my mom that I don't have any normal women in my life. Naruto grumbled to himself as his shoulders slumped. After nearly a minute of slumped over and watching people go by, Naruto heard someone clear their throat and cough, almost as if someone wanted his attention. Looking to his right, Naruto's face turned red and his heart began to pound uncontrollably. His blue eyes focused on the hero and his date of the day, Raven. Hey! Raven began in a slightly nervous voice. Naruto shook his head and looked at Raven. She wasn't dressed like Raven, the superhero. Instead, she was dressed like a normal teenage girl. Raven wore a simple blue shirt with a low-cut black jacket over it. She also wore a pair of black jeans and matching black boots. She finished her look with a necklace with a small red pendant. You look amazing, Naruto admitted sincerely. Raven blushed and looked down. You don't look so bad yourself, the dark-haired hero replied softly. Naruto grinned widely and stood there staring at Raven, who looked back at him. The two teens were silent for a few seconds as they stared at each other. Should we go? Raven finally asked, breaking the awkward silence. Naruto nodded and motioned for Raven to walk. Lead the way. You know where we're going after all. Raven nodded and began leading Naruto to where they were going for their first date. The walk itself was relatively short and quiet, as neither teen really knew what to say. Though as Naruto and Raven walked toward their destination, they gained the glances of many passing citizens who recognized the hero. Many of whom thought Raven and Naruto were on some kind of date based on the way they were dressed. Good. Raven began as he stopped walking and stood in front of a small shop. Here we are. Naruto smiled and opened the tent door for Raven. After you. Raven gave a small smile and walked past the blonde, then found a secluded table in the back. Raven and Naruto took their seats and ordered some tea from the shop owner. This place is nice, Naruto noted, his eyes scanning the shop's decor. I'm glad you chose to come here. Me too, this is one of my favorite places in all of Jump City, Raven replied, sharing a little bit of herself with Naruto. Naruto nodded with a smile and folded his hands on the table. I have to be honest with you, Raven, I've never been on a date before, the assassin revealed, causing Raven to laugh. That makes two of us, the hero admitted. Well, that's comforting. At least you won't have high expectations for me, the blonde joked before leaning slightly toward the table. Hey, I have an idea. Let's play a little game. Raven raised an eyebrow. What kind of game do you have in mind? The teenager asked. It's simple, I'll ask you a question and you must answer it. Then ask me a question and I'll answer it, Naruto explained, causing Raven to nod. Why don't you go first then? Raven suggested. Fine, no problem, Naruto replied, while his inner Thelab persona smiled in his head. Tell me, what is your real name? After all, I'm sure your name isn't Raven, and you don't try to hide who you are with a mask. So why don't you tell me your name? Besides, you know mine is just right. Raven bit her lip. No one actually asked to know her name. Even her team didn't know her name, while she didn't know her teammates' real names. Although Naruto was right, she really had nothing to hide. So why not tell him her real name? Rachel, my name is Rachel Roth. Rachel, now correctly named, revealed, making Naruto smile. That's a beautiful name, Rachel. You don't mind if I call you by your name, do you? Naruto asked. Only when we're alone, but when there are other people around, call me Raven. Raven explained, causing Naruto to nod. I don't want everyone to know who I really am. Especially a certain annoying assassin. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at the mention of an annoying assassin. I can agree with that, Rachel. Naruto agreed before pointing at Raven. Okay, it's your turn, ask. Raven twiddled her fingers and wondered what to ask. There were so many questions she could ask about the blonde, but she didn't know where to start. After a minute of thinking, though, an idea came to her. Your bookcase, Raven began, causing Naruto to tilt his head. It's called Mito's bookshelf. What's the meaning behind that name? Naruto frowned as the memory of his sister began to return to him. He was half-hearted about lying to Raven about Mito, but he needed to start leaving some trace of him being Harley Quinn's son. I had a family, Naruto began softly, his eyes drifting as he looked at his table. I had a great father, a beautiful mother, and a wonderful twin sister, Mito. Naruto looked at Raven with a dejected expression. Like I said, bad men took them from me. The name of my shop is my way of remembering them. Raven walked over and placed her hands over Naruto's. I'm so sorry. The Titan began softly. I shouldn't have brought it up. It's okay, Rachel. Naruto answered honestly. You didn't know, so don't beat yourself up. But let's move on to something else. Tell me about yourself. What was your childhood like? Raven looked down. An emotion appeared on her face that Naruto had seen in the mirror for years, a look of pain and suffering. I didn't have much of a childhood. Raven replied simply, causing Naruto to nod. I see, I don't want to overstep my bounds. So why don't we change the subject? Naruto asked. Raven nodded. Yes, that would be best. I really don't want to talk about my father right now. The hero replied, his words filled with venom when he mentioned the word father. So she has daddy issues. Naruto noted Raven's small slip of the tongue. That could be useful information for the future. Well, why don't we talk about ourselves? You know what we like and what we don't like. Naruto suggested with a small, contagious smile, which made Raven crack a grin. I'd like that. Raven replied softly. Naruto happily went first and began telling Raven about all his likes, dislikes, and funny little quirks. She joined in, sharing her own interests with the blonde. Their conversation lasted for hours and both teens enjoyed each other's company, as neither could remember a time when they had so much fun with another person. Finally, they decided to leave the tea shop and return to Naruto's bookstore. The sun had set, however, and the two teens found themselves walking together under the cover of night, while Jump City's bustling nightlife unfolded around them. I had a lot of fun today, Rachel, Naruto admitted to the girl walking very closely beside him. Me too, Raven replied with a small blush. I'd like to spend more time with you. Naruto laughed and nudged Raven in the shoulder. Look at you, you're not even done with this date, and you're already asking for another one. Maybe I am. Do you have a problem with that? Raven asked with a bit of confidence. I'd love to go on another date, Naruto admitted before stopping in front of her tent. You're a very special person, Rachel, and I like being around you. You're sweet. Raven began, but stopped when Naruto placed a small kiss on her cheek. And you're beautiful, Naruto replied, winking at the blushing hero. Remember, I gave you my number earlier, so you better use it. Raven grinned from ear to ear. I'll think about it. Naruto shared a smile with Raven as he placed a hand on the door of her tent. I'll see you around, Rachel. The blonde spoke softly, causing Raven to nod as she walked away. Naruto's apartment. Naruto walked into his living room with a happy smile on his face and a spring in his step. This action, of course, was noticed by Shikamaru, who was sitting on the couch. So it's safe to assume you didn't screw things up, Shikamaru began before letting out a loud yawn. Or should we run to the panic room? Everything went perfectly, Naruto admitted sincerely. So you really like him? That complicates things, doesn't it? Shikamaru asked. Yeah, I like it. We're very similar, after all, Naruto revealed as he took a seat next to his friend. But you're right that there are complications. Technically, I'm his enemy since his team is chasing me. Shikamaru signaled the blonde to leave. It's too troublesome. Let's focus on the task at hand. We have one name to cross off our list tonight. Are you ready? Naruto jumped off the couch and began stretching. Yeah, let's get to work. I've been itching to do something. Shikamaru slowly stood up. Well then, let's go, the black-haired teen replied, as he and Naruto headed toward their secret headquarters. Though once they entered the elevator, Naruto sighed in frustration. Oh, I almost forgot, Naruto said, picking up his phone and starting to dial a number. I have to call Jade. Who? Shikamaru asked, confused. One of my few friends from my days in the League of Assassins, Naruto explained as he placed the phone to his ear. Annoying, the teenager muttered, knowing a little about Naruto's time in the League. Naruto waited silently for a moment, but soon someone finally answered on the other end. What took you so long? Were you busy rounding third base with that Raven girl? Cheshire's voice asked on the phone. Naruto rolled his eyes. Cut the crap, Jade, and just tell me what you wanted to talk about. Ah, you're no fun, Jade moaned in response. Just give me a few little details. The elevator rang, followed by Naruto and Shikamaru entering their hideout. The latter began preparing for the task they would be doing tonight. Listen, Jade, I have a lot of work to do, so please get to the point, Naruto pleaded as he began massaging his forehead. Fine. Jade snorted. Remember I told you about my sister? Yes, I do. From what you told me, she lives in Gotham with your disabled mother. Naruto replied as he took a seat and played with an arrow on the desk in front of him. What was her name again? Artemis. Jade spoke softly. Her name is Artemis. Naruto nodded and began inspecting the arrow in his hand. All right, what does your sister have to do with the favor I owe you? There was a sigh through the phone. I told you, I met your mother during my last visit to Gotham. Well, I also ran into my own mother. She told me my sister's been doing vigilante work. I'm worried about her, Naruto. She's not properly trained like you and I. She could get herself killed. I thought you were distant with your family. Naruto pointed out. I am, but that doesn't mean I don't care. Jade quickly replied. Anyway, here's my favor. I want you to go to Gotham and take my sister under your wing. If she wants to live the life of a vigilante, I at least want her to be properly trained. Besides, who else would be better for the teacher than one of the best incoming vigilantes I know? Naruto placed the arrow in his hand down. Jade. Oh no, not me, Jade! Cheshire interrupted loudly. Your ass owes me. Naruto took a deep breath and nodded. You're right, I do owe you, so I'll approach your sister with an offer. Though it won't be right away, I need some time to get some things going. The best thing I can do is approach her in the next few weeks and offer her the chance to come back with me to Jump City. There was a moment of silence. Fine, I can accept those terms, just keep my sister from being killed. I promise Jade I'll take care of her. Naruto reassured his old friend. We can talk more later. I have to go. Naruto hung up the phone and looked at his partner with an exhausted expression. I guess things just got more troublesome? The black-haired teen asked. Naruto stood up and approached his team. You have no idea, but let's focus on kicking ass. Titan's Tower. Raven walked through the halls of Titan's Tower with a big smile on her face. She had a wonderful day with Naruto today and couldn't wait to see the blonde again. In her mind, Naruto was perfect. He was kind, funny, shared similar interests to hers, and most importantly, treated her like a normal girl. In truth, the young hero was quickly falling in love with the blonde-haired assassin. However, as Raven walked toward her room and thought about the events that had transpired, she slowly passed by the room of her leader, Robin, who happened to be leaning against the doorframe and staring directly at his teammate. Where have you been all day? Robin asked in a simple voice. It's none of your business. Raven replied in a firm tone, still angry at Robin for their argument about helping Thelab. Leave me alone. Robin opened his mouth slightly, planning to apologize for what happened earlier. Considering that the boy wonder felt guilty about the way he treated his friend, he knew he was right in his argument, but he could have handled the situation better. However, Raven quickly opened the door to her room and disappeared inside before closing it with her powers. Fine then. Robin sighed softly, before retreating to his own room. As Robin closed the door, the masked hero approached his computer and noticed he was receiving a call. This caused Robin to raise an eyebrow and take a seat, confused by what the caller could possibly want. So when he clicked OK on the computer, he was met with the face of his mentor and adoptive father Bruce Wayne. Dick! Bruce greeted in a simple voice. Looks like you've seen better days. Robin nodded and removed his mask. Yes, I've gone a bit overboard chasing this killer named Thelab, but the media has been calling him the Black Hood. I've heard of him, in fact, that's the reason I'm contacting you. Bruce explained, peppering Robin with dozens of questions. I take it you're aware this man has League of Assassins training? Yes, I've come to that conclusion. Robin replied quickly, before opening a database of information she'd been building at the lab. I also know he's hunting someone within Jump City. He's killed dozens of thugs and crime bosses. While he's only killed one person who wasn't a criminal, a man named Garfield Sharp. Bruce nodded and began to type. Garfield Sharp, former CEO and owner of Sharp Industries, a company that manufactures military-grade weaponry. Supposedly before his death, Mr. Sharp was suspected of selling his weapons to crime bosses and terrorist organizations, but no evidence could be produced to prove this, so maybe he wasn't a good man, but he didn't deserve to die. Robin pointed out, causing Bruce to nod. You're right, but I felt knowing a little more about Mr. Sharp would help understand why he was killed. Certainly, there was a motive or a reason why this Thelab killed him, Bruce explained before waving his hand. But I'm getting off topic. I have more important information I want to give you about this killer. Like what? I'm sending you a file. It's Arkham's security footage. Look, a few days ago, your little killer broke into Arkham, killed an inmate, and broke a criminal out of maximum security. Bruce leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms, while he waited for Robin to review the footage. That's Harley Quinn, but why bring her up? Robin asked in a confused tone. Maybe he was paid off too. After all, Harley has almost unlimited connections and resources. However, the inmate who was murdered leaves me with a theory, Bruce explained quietly. Who was killed? Robin asked. James King, the only man left alive from the group responsible for the massacre at the GCPD Gala, which took place 11 years ago. The same event where Harley's husband and daughter were murdered. Shortly after, her son disappeared and she became criminally insane, so it was revenge. Robin began, but Bruce seemed to disagree. That's the quick guess, but the crime scene showed it wasn't a clean kill. Instead, James King was tortured and beaten before being shot and killed with an arrow. It reminded me of a corpse after an interrogation. Whoever killed him wanted information. So there's a connection between Thelab, Harley Quinn, and the attack that ruined her family, Robin said in a simple voice. Yes, I believe Harley hired this assassin to kill the people responsible for what happened to her family. Maybe that's why she's in Jump City. This Thelab might have a lead I couldn't find when I investigated the massacre 11 years ago. Regardless, tomorrow Bruce Wayne will visit his old friend and try to get information from her, Bruce explained before placing his hood over his head. Wouldn't Batman be a better interrogator? Robin asked. Bruce frowned beneath his mask. Not when I'm talking to a dear friend, one whose family I failed, Bruce replied with a sad tone. Robin nodded, knowing Bruce would show restraint in dealing with Harley. She was a criminal, but she was still an old friend. A friend he felt guilty about not helping more than he could. Are you still looking for his son? Robin asked, causing the Dark Knight to nod. I failed him, just like his mother. I should have been there for him like a godfather is supposed to. Bruce began, his voice low and sad. I'll never stop looking for him, Robin nodded. I know you won't, Bruce. That's the kind of man you are. Although it makes me wonder, if you took in Harley's son, he may have been your Robin. Bruce let a small laugh pass through his lips, thinking of the young blonde man he knew fighting crime alongside him. It was a pleasant thought he would think about again and again. You may be right about that, but I'll be in touch if I have any new information about the lab. Stay in touch with Dick. I'm proud of the work you're doing with your team. Hey, tell him I said hi. A female voice shouted in the background, making Bruce smile. And Barbara says hello, Bruce added quickly. Robin smiled. Thanks, and tell Babs and Alfred I miss them. The boy wonder began in a gentle tone. They'll be sure to contact me as soon as you have any information about the lab. I want to stop this man as soon as possible. Bruce nodded and ended the call, leaving Robin alone to figure out what to do next. He had new leads to follow at the lab, so he might as well start investigating them. Let's see everything I can find about Harley Quinn and the massacre at the GCPD ball, Robin muttered to himself as he began typing on his computer.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.